right. We got some things to cover, but before we get into that, there are some things that I watched on Twitter, on X, for people that are still. It's hard to say X when you're trying to verb it, so that's why I say Twitter, because I like to tweet. I don't like to post. I like to tweet. So, but yeah, I saw a video on X yesterday where this lady was talking about, her schooling. I think she said her preschool age child, on how she doesn't feel confident in the child entering the school system, and I'm guessing she means public school system. And so, I won't say the word just yet. I'm gonna prime that up. I'm gonna just kind of lay that out, and then we'll come back to that, where this parent didn't feel confident in the educational system as it is today. For whatever reason, we'll cover that as well. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about, the power vacuum. There's so many things. So I'm going to lay out kind of a general outline of what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover, obviously, our nation and all the things that are associated with what I call the power vacuum. Just something God put in my heart today with this power vacuum, and how a shift or a change in a balance of power and what's associated with that. And everything from, we're going to talk about DOGE, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, Mars exploration, space travel. We're talking about, obviously, education, schools, Bobby Kennedy Jr., the pharma industry, FDA. We're talking about Tesla. Their stock prices went up. All these things, we're going to put it all in the pot. We're going to mix it all up. We're going to sear the topics. We're going to let it kind of sear on all sides. We're going to pour the water and seasoning. We're going to let it simmer. We're going to boil it. And then we're going to finish up with a nice beef stew at the end. So, honey, you ready for camera? You ready to come up?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you that have never met my wife, this is your first time. This is my wife, Emily, my beautiful wife of Emily of 25 years, whatever. My beautiful wife of Emily. There we go. She is wearing her, I don't know what you call that. What do you call that? A flower print. You gotta explain that.
Flower print.
Flower print.
It's the flower print.
So as we say in Hawaii, it is aloha. Well, I say aloha mai kako. My wife, in whatever language she chooses.
Kia ora.
Which is a Maori. To all of my Korean friends, Ayongseyo. Ayongseyo. Our friends in Japan.
Malo elele.
In Japan.
Oh, I don't know. What is Japan?
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Or if it's morning, ohayo gozaimasu. And then our friends in Fiji.
Bula vinaka.
What else did we miss? Anybody else?
Malo elele is Tongan. Samoan is Talofa.
Talofa lava. And then to all of our friends in Russia, Privyet. And then to our friends in Turkey, Marhaba. And
to all of our friends in Hawaii and our ohana in Hawaii.
How's it, brothers? How's it?
Good morning. Aloha kakahiaka. Oh, actually, it's afternoon. So it's aloha awinala.
It's not afternoon for them. It's still morning for them.
Oh. Well, it's afternoon here. So
it just made afternoon. It's like 12:10. One other thing is when we do these lives is trying to figure out the time zones. Make sure we got everybody. Dr. Heath, I'm going to put him on blast. Dr. Heath, he asked me to do this morning show with him. See, for him, it's a morning show. For me, it's an ungodly hour time of the day show. Because for me, it'd be 5 a.m. or 4 a.m, whatever time it was. So I think Dr. Heath, for some reason, thinks that the Central Time Zone is like this. I guess so, Central. Yeah, whatever. We base everything on Eastern. I think a lot of American things. I guess because of Washington D.C., our government and all that. Anyways, before we get into the top, here's what I want to for, and my wife knows this, so this is nothing new to her. But one of the chapters in my life, if you remember you remember the boathouse at the Palm Mitchell Estate?
Yeah.
So you remember it had the hole in the top? I'm gonna jog your memory for a second. Do you remember the boathouse when you went in? There was a hole.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and we had the garage. Mm-hmm. It was designed for the boats, right? You see, you had to stick this. Well, one of our guests, I think I can say that. Well, I won't say their name. The guests that every year they'd come and stay, right, for a couple months. So he kind of asked for an office. So if you remember, me and Matt, mostly Matt, obviously, but because he's a carpenter, but we did the framing, right? And that's where I learned how to do framing. And but because the foundation was already set, right? It's an old foundation from 20 years ago. We had to drill. Actually, not even drill. Yeah, we drilled a little bit, and then we would pound these like driver nails, and there's a bullet. So basically, a bullet. It's a 22 not 22 inch. It's a 22. It's a round, like a bullet, basically, and you pound it into the thing, explode, bah, and it would shoot the driver nail, which would anchor that wood into the ground. So we had to do the whole floor like that to set up the framing. Otherwise, the framing is just going to slide,
right?
Because all the weight from the top. So
you need a solid foundation.
Well, the foundation was solid, but the boards had to be anchored in that foundation. And the only way to do it was to drill a little hole and then pound that nail would literally shoot. And sometimes it would crack at the surface of the foundation, but it would go down inside. So anyways, we built that whole floor up. And then that hole Matt did, I forget what size. So you got four. It was, what was it? 2x8s, I think. Is that right? 2x8s. Anyways, it was thick. I can't remember the size. Anyways, it was thick framing, different than what you would build like in this. Usually a load bearing. It was thick. Somebody can fact check me later in the comments. So, anyways, we built that and we built the floor. Remember, so we built the floor. But anyways, that's where I learned a lot about how Matt was teaching me about how he builds houses. And I'll just go through the list, but obviously you want to have, I won't cover the soil. I think you and I can talk about that, but having the foundation, you got to have the right foundation, which they already had, which actually, that's a good topic because that foundation, if you remember, the boathouse was leaning. It was designed purposely to lean towards the ocean. So whenever we would bring a boat in, you could drain the water and the water would drip out into the boat ramp and go into the ocean. Yeah. That was the whole design of it. That's why it had a slight pitch to our angle. And we had to troubleshoot that. So Matt did he did like what do you call it? He got some cement and leveled out to where it was somewhat level. So when we built the office, the chair wouldn't slide back, which it kind of still did. It was hard because anyways, yeah, I learned about the foundation, framing, and we had to do the electrical and all that, So anyways, that was that was one of my foundational things for today, was covering that, right? In order to build something, obviously you got to have a foundation.
Well,
right.
There's this video, and you can find it on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube, and if you type in Hawaii North Shore house falling into the ocean, because there's so much erosion, but these houses on the North Shore, they've been having to shore up their houses on the outside, the foundation, with sandbags. But the thing about it is that they had built their house on sand, literally.
Isn't that ironic that you're gonna fortify your house that's built on sand with sandbags?
Right, because there's nothing else that they can. There's no way that you can put a foundation in sand that's made out of something else, because yes, you can put wood and stuff in it, but sand gets moist. It's a lot of moisture. Obviously, your wood gonna rot. Um, but I don't think that accounted when they built these houses. I don't think they accounted for the erosion that would happen. That would move. That would move their foundation, right? So there's one house. You can see it. I think I don't know. I think it's like 15 minutes, and they had a drone footage of the house just falling apart. So one part of the living room, the living room area, very nice house, had fallen into the water. But you can see the foundation on the underneath, and as the water, the waves would come in, and you see all the sand being taken out. But you can see where they had put up sandbags, and you can see the what do you call that? The rods.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you can see them all coming out of the house, but you can actually see that part fall into the water. I was watching it because I wanted to see the house fall into the water. I wanted to see what it looked like, not like, oh, good for you, kind of. That's not what my intention was. My intention was watching it. It's because I wanted to see how, the sand would move so much that house would fall, and there was literally nothing that they could do about it, right? So nobody lived in the house. Obviously, they had to move because there's nothing. I mean, they could come and fill sand right along the shore, but how long are you gonna have to keep doing that? Right? What is it like? Every year you're gonna have to come back and just keep pouring out sand, right? That's money out of your pocket. That's a very different foundation. In the same way, the Bible talks about not building your house on sand, but literally having a firm foundation. And it's so interesting. That video was so interesting because it brought perspective on what it means to build your house on sand that's always falling, right? You're going to have to keep trying to build it up all the time. You're going to keep having to apply sand. You're going to keep having to apply sandbags.
Well, the sandbags are designed to stop the water, right? But that's surface level, So I'm gonna wait for your camera. The camera kind of kicked itself out. Joel said that foundation is where it starts, in life, in love, in everything we do, which is very true. Yeah. I just put you on. You started sneezing. Is that it?
Yeah.
You sure? Because normally you do 3.
Yeah, it's strange.
You good?
I am.
Okay, I'm going to put you back on. My wife normally sneezes at least 3 times, like 3 times in a row. It's like Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Yeah. Well, I'm going to put you on. You want me to take you off for a second? Or are you good?
No, okay. I'm good. I'm just.
I forget what I was talking about. I was talking about. Shoot, I got sidetracked with your camera when it shut off. Oh, the water. So the water, right? So the sandbags are designed to stop the water from hitting the house. But you notice over here where we live now, you notice there's ditches everywhere. You see how far down they go?
No.
Can you put it this way? When we drive on a road, you ever notice there's like channel?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's because the water table what I'm learning is that when they do certain buildings or parking lots, they have to make sure that they know where the water table is. And they have to do drainages. Like if you just have a drain that's only here, it's not going to drain anywhere. It's just, so they have to make sure that it drains properly, and they have to know where, like how to do, like, it's kind of like when you do plumbing. If the water comes from here and your pipe is like what we have now, where the water just fills up on one side.
Yeah. Because it's not properly.
So when these houses in Hawaii are building these sandbags, they're neglecting the fact that there's water underneath the foundation of the home.
Right.
Which is typically concrete, layers of concrete. Because I don't think they have bedrock.
Mm-mm.
Not most of them, especially North Shore. So of course the houses are going to slip towards the water, wherever, you know what I mean? Because it keeps pulling things out from underneath.
I was trying to find that scripture that talks about building your house
Well, there's several.
on sand and then building your house
I
on
got it right here.
the rock.
So Matthew 7:24 it's a parable, right? So it's basically the wise, the foolish builder, and then the storm when the storm comes, right? So you want me to read it?
Yeah.
So therefore, everyone who hears the words of mine, puts them into practice, is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came, streams rose, the winds blew and beat against the house, yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rains came, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. What's up, Brother Sam? We got Brother Sam also in New Zealand. Kia ora. Good to see you, brother. Brother Sam in New Zealand. Thank you for watching us on Twitch. Appreciate you, brother.
Kia ora.
Or aloha. He said aloha as well. Can't remember what ethnicity Brother Sam is. I think Sam. I want to say Sam is.
Aloha. Or I think Tahiti is Aroha.
Aloha, yeah.
Aroha.
But I think I wonder if Sam is Maori. Yeah, I think he is. Maybe he's not Maori. Maori. Anyways, yeah. So right, the scriptures, the wise build on a rock, which in literal translation is not actual like granite. It's on Christ, right? That scripture, on Christ, a solid rock, right? Which I stand. So that's the title today, is the vacuum. So I didn't put it on my live intro, but it's on my on the Rumble. I got a picture of Donald Trump with a vacuum. So that image was just used to kind of stir people up a little bit. But there is a power vacuum, right? There's a new party that's running most of the government, or half the government. This is just half the government. And one thing God's showing me, well, there's this excitement on one side, on the conservative side, that wow, we're going to have a golden age. And I don't know where that term originates from. I know it's I'll look it up in a second, but
that reminds me of I don't know. It struck me as odd when it was said, and the thing that came to my mind was it Babylon?
I think of Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah,
that's what
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, that's what. And Brother Sam was asking. Yeah, we are talking about we infuse the Bible in everything we do, Brother Sam, and definitely Trump related. Now it's not just Trump. We just use Trump as an image for our Rumble image, but one of the questions is, do you believe it's? I believe.
Wait, and say the question.
He just says, do you believe it's the end times? This is a question from Twitch. So, as far as end times, yeah, I definitely agree. Now, I don't know if you're going to ask me for a timeline. I don't know. I will say is that I don't. This might sound weird, but I don't want Christ to come back anytime soon. Not for selfish reasons, but that there's still a lot of work to be done before he comes. Yep. So, but going back to this power vacuum in the golden age, yeah, I agree. It kind of takes me back to Nebuchadnezzar, where he saw what he thought anyway, right, through his dreams, that what a great type in shadow. I'm not saying Trump is an evil person, like, but I don't know his personal, but to see all these things
right
in a dream, and you're like, wow, that's me.
Well, it's funny because when he said it, that's what came to mind. I'm not saying that that's who he is, but it was when he said the golden age, and I was thinking
very similar.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that golden statue.
Great input. And Sam said, well, the temple needs to be built first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Bible clearly says that you would know,
Yeah,
right,
you'll know.
by the sign of the times. It didn't say that, because the Bible clearly says that you don't know, neither does Jesus know the day and the hour of the Lord's coming,
Mm-hmm.
right? It hasn't been revealed to him, nor has it been revealed to us. But it didn't say be so concerned about that's the only thing. That's not our role as believers. As role as believers, we should be doing what the great mandate says for us to do, right? Make disciples of all nations. But it clearly says that you would know by the sign of the times. So that means that we should always be watching for what's happening in the land, in the new, I don't know. The news is hard to filter. You got to go more than just listening to what people are saying, because you got people who swing all the way left, and then you got people who swing all the way right, and then you got a middle ground, and then you got to, kind of decipher between that, and then you got to go and do your own research of what's really happening in the region, or what's really happening with this, or even with the governmental thing, when they're talking about Doge and all this stuff with Elon Musk, and they're giving him rights and stuff like that. But when you actually dive into it and you actually look at it, that program that Elon is in was created by Obama. It wasn't something that they all of a sudden came up with, right? So when you do more digging, you do more research, then you find out it's not something that, is just here all of a sudden, and that they're trying to take over and do all these different things, but they're implementing the program that was already in place that wasn't used for that purpose. But and like I said, not everything is like that, but it goes to show you that, that you have to do your research on these things. And I'm not saying that everything on the right is correct. I'm not saying that everything on the left is correct either. But there's a middle ground, and then you have to find where the truth is, really. And that's just the bottom line. We have to find where the truth is. And if you're a believer, right, we have to rightly divide the word of God. And then as we look at, if we look at First Timothy, the 2nd chapter, it talks about praying for those who are in authority over you, that it would go well, right? So it's talking about governmental authority, like praying for them, that they would have that desire to do what is right, that it will go well for us, not necessarily just trying to judge them, or
and definitely not wishing them to fail either.
Right.
and
right.
and not and to not 1 Corinthians 13 says, do not rejoice, right? We don't rejoice when someone
if they fail us, then we're the ones who's going to be hurting, right? So say we're on the brink of war, right? And we're so rejoicing that, oh, you know what, this government, they're failing, and this and that, and they see us as a weak people, and then here war comes, right? Do we really want war? Is that what you really want?
Yeah.
Because I think you belong in a mental institution if that's what you really want, because the effects of war, there are always casualties. And so if you're not fighting on the front lines, and it doesn't matter if you're fighting on the front lines, because people on the front lines die. But at the same time, as civilians, there are casualties of war with civilians. So, if we're looking at it at an all around perspective, and not, just from one perspective, because, I didn't like Joe Biden. I didn't like him to be in office. I didn't like him, but I didn't want him to be in office. And I didn't vote for him, but I definitely prayed for him. I prayed for the governmental system that we lived in under him. I may not have agreed with everything. There's some things that that he did was, oh, okay, well, that's a good thing, right? But you don't look at people and go, just because you don't like them or just because you don't like their policy, you hate them 100%. That's not how, believers should be reacting to these situations, right? We need to come with clear lenses, right? We need to see perspectives clearly. That it's not just about us. It's about our community. It's about the people all around us, right? We're not as believers, right? We understand that the kingdom of God is upside down. It's not a selfish kingdom. It's not about me and just about me and just about my family. No, it's about us and the families around us and the people, because God loves people. He may not like everything that you do, but he definitely loves you.
I want to acknowledge some comments. There's a whole bunch of comments came before you talking. Okay. And Sam in New Zealand says that God placed people in position for a reason, which is true, right? He does have a plan. One of the things he responded when you're talking was a lot of people want to leave America, which is true. I think the door is open. There's a lot of people want to come to America too. So, and a lot of people, I don't know how many people want to leave. I don't know. He says, and here's the light side of it. He says, New Zealand welcomes you. Well, I don't know if New Zealand can take all. Whatever.
So here's the thing. In America, there's so much freedom that people take freedom for granted. So obviously they want to leave. Then you got people who live in communist countries and they're like, what are you doing? We're trying to go over there. We're not trying to live where we're at, because they understand what dictatorship looks like, right? And so you got two.
Here's what I'll say to that, because Joe Rogan talked about, I forget who the guest was, and the guest was saying that he misses, he says sometimes he'll travel to a country and he says it's weird because and this is not racist in any way, but he said that there's just mostly white people everywhere he goes, or it doesn't represent what he thought the country would be. And because of how we are now, that it's easier more than ever to travel. Mm-hmm. Culturally, and people are moving to different places because for whatever reason. He said that you kind of want to go to a place. If you're going to go to China, you're probably still going to see a lot of Chinese people. But if you go to certain other countries, you're like, wait a minute, there's a lot of mixture. Multiracial is the way. Well, Hawaii's been multiracial for a very long time, right?
They've never discriminated against other people coming. If people wanted to come and be in the kingdom, that's what they did. They've allowed, that to happen.
That's a very multifaceted topic, because that's a tough one, because at what expense does a country compromise their generational historical value as ethnicity to welcome in another? Put it this way, man, this can go so many different ways. There's a reason why the Tower of Babel happened. There's a reason why there's a separation. It's because that Tower of Babel represented something that they built that they thought was important and relevant.
Well, it was a unity. They did it together in unity. When you have unity, you look at Mauna Kea, right? And you look at what happened.
That was a bad unity. We got to agree on that. The Tower of Babel was a bad unity.
Right.
Yeah.
But okay, so if you look at Mauna Kea and what has happened on Mauna Kea, if you don't know what happened on Mauna Kea and the beef between TMT is a company that wanted to build
TMNT.
Well, whatever. They wanted to build another telescope, and the people there.
No, wait, I'm sorry. That's Teenage Mutant Ninja. You're right.
TMT. Okay, so never mind. The building of another telescope. Right, but they want to build it on the top of Mauna Kea. But the problem is they never took care of the problem that was already there, which was I have pictures of my dad up there because my dad went to go help build a one of the telescopes because there are a bunch of telescopes up there. But now they were up there, and if you don't know, as cultured people, we understand the stewardship of the land. And so the thing was that they never cleaned up the rubbish that was up there from before. They have several telescopes that doesn't work already. And so the issue was, well, why you want to build another telescope up there? And you didn't even take down the telescopes that are not working, first of all. And then there's rubbish out there that all the people are, they made these organizational groups to come and help clean up the rubbish that was up there that was left behind. But now they want to build now an extremely big telescope, right? And then there's other issues with that, like the water issue, and then there's
the biggest issue
the religion issue, but the biggest issue is the stewardship and the water.
But even that had a power vacuum.
Right. So if you look at if you watch what was happening up there, when people come together in unity in such a big way, where there's a huge community of people coming together. Even my brother called me from Colorado. He's like, "What's going on in Mauna Kea?" He said, "Cause even us, we're here. We're getting news about what's happening in Mauna Kea." And then you got different people from different groups coming over to Hawaii, to come and support. And then you got Native Americans coming to Hawaii, to support. Now, that kind of unity is powerful. If you see that Kuha'aheo song, and everybody singing it together, it's just a powerful thing. When unity comes together, it's a powerful thing. So even the same way with the Tower of Babylon,
Babel,
the Tower of Babel, right? Them coming together was a powerful thing. So here's God saying to them, we need to do something about this, right? We need to do something about this. And here's God. He strikes the tower and everybody is now scattered because they all don't sing, they all don't speak the same language, right? So there's power in unity, whether it's good or bad, right? Whether you're for the Lord or for not, it's a powerful thing. But when believers come together in unity, there is a greater purpose, right? There's a greater plan. There is the power of God behind that.
Let me read this. So Sam, he's bringing us some gold nuggets. I want to. And Beth, we see you on X. Thank you for joining us. But he said, if we come together because of God's life, it is God's plan. He also said that the ultimate unity is God's love. So the Tower of Babel, the whole idea of the Tower of Babel was that they thought they built something that was great and irrelevant, going to the heavens. But that's not what God told them to do.
Right.
Right. God told them to spread out and populate the earth. They decided the 2025 version of that I can come up with is SpaceX. That's the modern day version of Tower of Babel, SpaceX. The rocket going to Mars. It's what we talked about before. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Like, a lot of people may not like what we just said, but I have nothing against, like, hey, if you want to explore, that's one thing. But if you are like, it's perfect example is if we want more kids. Why in the world would you take in more kids if you can't even feed the 5 that you've got? If you can't even put clothes on them, if you can't even get them medical care or whatever, right? Well, why would you take on 5 more? Or better yet, why would you go out and take a 6-month, 1-year trip, leave the kids at home while they're trying to feed themselves? You know what I mean? Why would you do that?
Well, the earth was designed for man. So if God wanted us on Mars, then we'd be traveling back and forth from Mars to Earth, and you know, why do we have to go and explore and see whether or not the conditions is right for us to live there? Right? There's boundaries that God has put on us, and we shouldn't go beyond those boundaries.
And that would be an interpretation of the Bible as we know it, right? So, because you can put it to, I'm going to use a big word, but just scale, right? So, some would make the argument like, well, why would I go into the ocean and explore the ocean? Then we just stay on land and just build what God gave us here. But then in the whole earth argument, that makes sense what you said. But so in scale, you can say, well, God created the whole universe for me. So let me go to the moon. Why stop at the moon? Let me go check out what else God created for me. So in that respect, on the other side of that, I would say somebody could say that. But my point is, whether that's acceptable or scripture or not, you still have a home that is not suitable to leave.
Right. And that was my point. Not necessarily that you can't go and explore it. My point is, why would you want to go and build and colonize a world that you're not effectively able to live in, breathe in, without having something on you, or living in one dome, or, you know, it makes no sense to me, because all you need is one crack in your dome, right? All you need is one crack in your helmet. And you know, people explore, they go on the water all the time, but what happens when something happens, right? They die.
I will respond to something that Sam said. I appreciate the engagement, because Twitch is my one of my slower channels. But he said that one interpretation is that the Earth is supposed to be a prison for the human race. And I would gently push back on that, just based on scripture, not my personal opinion, but on scripture. When God created, when they finished everything, and he saw that it was good. So I don't believe that God would lead off with building something that entraps us. That's the first thing. Now, I think we stewarded the earth pretty bad.
We steward the earth.
Yeah, we didn't take very good care of the earth to date. So,
well, the Bible says that, you know, the earth groans for the manifestation of the sons of man. And what does that mean? You know, if you look at the beginning of Genesis, God gave Adam a mandate, right? Mm-hmm. Man has a mandate to take dominion, to steward,
to take care of it, basically
steward it properly, right? When we're not taking care of it like how it should,
it's kind of like with Elon's mindset. Well, if we can't take care of it, let's just go leave. Let's go find another place. Like, well, first of all, no, no.
We can jump from planet to planet every time we make rubbish or create pollution. No, we have to learn how to you know, do it right or live right. You know,
the equivalent is buying a house, tearing it up, and just like leaving it there and go buy another house.
Well, if you look at science, right? Science truly does glorify God, and you look at what God had placed on the earth.
Say that one more time. You say the sun. Say that one more time. Just rewind.
Science glorifies God, right? If you look at the earth and the things that God created in it, if you look at the trees and you look at the flowers and the plants, right? They thrive off of carbon, right? Carbon dioxide. That's what they, you know, helps them to live, right? What do they give off? Oxygen. That's what we need to live, right? There's things that happen in the earth with science that both causes animals to live, plants to live, humans to live, right, and thrive. And there is, like, if you look at regenerative farming, in the same way, right? It's an ecosystem that goes around in a circle, and what does it do? It provides a life for the earth and the soil to produce more foods, animals, a way of us to eat, a way of animals eating, right? To produce what we need, like chickens producing eggs, right? Cows produce flatulence. I'm just kidding.
It all supports itself. And Sam was talking about indigenous people. They understood that, right? Mm-hmm. But I think we're really dwelling heavy on the stewardship aspect of what we're talking about today. But I agree that the indigenous people, like Native Hawaiians mm-hmm. or Kanaka Maoli, whatever Native American people that were in the United States prior to, even Yupik, it doesn't work. That type of stewardship, like what you talk about, regenerative farming, that mindset does not work if people are always wanting to expand. So it's kind of like Hawaii. I joked about this right the other day. I said people in Hawaii have the highest life expectancy of all the 50 states in the United States. Hawaii has the highest life expectancy. And part of that, I believe, is that we're not in a rush to go anywhere. Where am I going to go? I'm not in a rush to get to work. So, I'm not in a rush to, get from point A to point B.
You love being around people. You love being around family. You like having fun. It's not always work,
because you are content and you're mm-hmm. grateful for what you've got. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to, if I see 50 papio trapped in a section of the ocean, I'm not going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to get them all.
Right.
I shouldn't. The typical indigenous Native Hawaiian mindset is, I'm just going to catch enough.
Right.
Let somebody else, let the fish go.
And part of the kapu system was we have to regenerate what we're eating, right? So there's times and seasons that you can hunt, that you can fish for things, and then there's times and seasons when you don't, because you got to let it replenish. Because if you don't let it replenish, then there won't be enough.
The typical Western mindset is when you see all that papio, the fish, you're like,
take them all.
Oh, bro, we gotta get them all. But I don't know where
it's thinking further ahead.
Yeah. So the regenerative mindset or the stewardship only applies if you're not greedy. Mm-hmm. If you want to take care and be content with what you got. It still blows my mind that people here in a beautiful state of Oregon, mm-hmm. even where we live, that they live in apartments. I'm not trying to say anything about people's financial situations, but because I know that's part of it. I just kind of understand how I would live in a beautiful state like this and put myself in a building with 100 other families when I can go out on a piece of land that's simple. And you know what I mean?
I think for us, because we are from Hawaii, it's very different in the ways of living. Because so you got people I know people who live in apartments, and the plan is to get on a property. But even as they're living in an apartment, they still have one of those things. What do you call those? Upright gardening things that they garden themselves, in the back of their apartment.
So you're referring to the simplicity of the lifestyle.
Right, because they're trying to get to a place where they can afford to get a property, right? But, yeah.
So I guess what I was trying to get at is that there's all this expanse, right, here, yep. But they're putting everybody together in this city,
yeah,
and build up, and it's a lifestyle that's. Part of it, what I see is that you've got all these people scrunched up in these apartments, mm-hmm. okay, in the city, mm-hmm. and then up on the hillside, you have all the $1 million, $5 million houses with the 1 acre lots. all the people that live in the city and in the high rises, they have this lifestyle that they sell, right? The urban lifestyle. You have 15 minutes in a circle. You can get everything you need, right? The 15 minute cities. In the meantime, the people up on the hill have the 1 acre property. They have the gardens. They have the dogs and the llamas and the alpacas. They got all
Because you're not teaching people to work.
But it's a
what you
lifestyle that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Because where do they get their food from? Well, they got to go to this farmer out here 45 minutes away who provides all the food for this city. And then all these workers here service the guys on the hillside. And it's a what do you call that? It's a package that they sold us from when we were kids, right? Mom and dad, in order for you to buy that apartment, to live that urban lifestyle, to have that house on the hill, mom and dad got to go work, right? Because how else are you going to pay for the BMW and a Mercedes car payment or the Ford truck, whatever?
Right, versus just getting a used car that you pay outright, to get you from point A to point B versus having a car payment.
Yeah.
Same thing with the phone. Instead of just get a phone that you pay for outright. That there's no monthly payments for a phone, or you're not, well, yeah, this is a cool phone. You pay it monthly, but it's $1,000. Like, it's just not just perspective, but it is perspective. And if you look at, so Proverbs 21 verse 17 says, "He who loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and oil will never be rich." And those things, they represent exactly what you're saying, like this lifestyle. They sell you on this package of this lifestyle that, oh, this is a better lifestyle. This is a better way of living. But at the end of the day, right? So where we are at now, even with the economy, right? We got eggs on the rise, right? Egg prices. Everybody's talking about egg prices.
Those like chickens are living it up, man. They got their Gucci bags and then the Gucci shoes. The chickens is like, bok, bok. You're like, yeah.
Now, I got a couple of friends who just went go get some chickens. And it's so funny that they got some chickens, and she posted something, and she said, "My chickens just laid some eggs. I ain't buying eggs anymore."
Those chickens, man. Those chickens are set, man. All the mama chickens are like, they're getting the nails done, getting their hair did. Those chickens are wealthy right now, man. Those chickens are like, ha ha, we got them. All the bougie chickens, got them.
So if you look at Proverbs 22 verse 3, it says, "A prudent man sees danger and takes refuge, but the simple keep going and suffer for it." So if you look at what's happening now with our economy, right? Those who are foreseeing things getting worse, or you foresee what's already happening, right? And talking about inflation getting higher, or all this power trip, vacuum, all this stuff, right? It affects everybody, right? And I see more and more people, more and more of my family, they're going out and they're getting gardening kits to start a garden, getting chickens to start what do you call that? Raising chickens to get your own eggs. Like, there's certain things that you can do on your own, right? Like, I don't know if I would raise a cow. Like, my daughter's like, "We should get a cow." I said, "I ain't raising no cow." Like, one of my friends have a cow. She has a cow, and that cow was tiny before. The cow is huge.
Well, we could get the tiny ones. Cat Williams has a dwarf cattle. He says that they don't know they're small. We do. He says they're tiny. I'll look it up. I'll look up. Tiny.
Maybe a goat, so we can have goat's milk.
No.
You got trauma.
Goats are demonic.
But so fitting, this scripture that talks about being a prudent person that sees or foresees, what is happening and can see that, hey, maybe things are not gonna get better. They're probably gonna get worse before they get better. So how can we plan for this, right? But then you got those who are like, it's okay, it'll get better. But in the end, they suffer, right? So even in the parts of stewardship, like how we're talking about stewardships, how Indigenous people think, how we think as Indigenous people, and how Westernized people think, right? And it's two totally different things. And when I say even culture, not you got Westernized people who have grown up in Hawaii, right? And so they think along the lines like how we think as well. So it's just different. It's very interesting. I have to say, it's very interesting.
Well, I want to talk about, we're talking about, obviously stewardship and sustainability, and some of that is releasing us from the grip of certain things. People growing their own food, or raising their own food. However, if you're carnivore, obviously you don't grow your own. Well, yeah, you do grow your own animals, but is that right? You raise your own animals. But yeah, I don't know. You can grow chickens. You raise chickens. Same thing. They grow, right? Chickens. Yeah. Anyways, my whole point being is that to take some responsibility, right, for things that you can do. I kind of want to shift over to this thought process of, because I have like 10 topics I wanted to cover today, but one of them is what they're revealing in our government. I forget who I was talking to. I'll just say his name. I was talking to Joey yesterday, and we were talking about how the government, I don't care what political side that people are, and there's more than two sides. I don't care what your approach to the government is. I think we can all agree that the government is not 100% honest. Right? We can agree with that. So with all the things that they're uncovering, take Elon out of the picture, because I don't like the guy in the area of some of the things he says. Some of the things he says are so inappropriate, like just on a sexual side. Like he sometimes he'll post up pictures on acts that are very sexual in nature, but then it's a meme, so it's kind of considered humor, but it's very off color, So anyways, take him out of the picture, but you look at what they're doing in DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. I think we can appreciate that they're finding things like the money that's being sent or spent, that is unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to do gender studies for electricians in South Dakota.
There's only two genders.
I don't want us to get fact checked and hit with something with false community notes, but I'm just making light of what the fact. I don't have the exact terminology, but one of them is, I think it was $5 million to study the gender of fish larvae or something to that effect. I don't think we need to spend money and things like that. And I think with all those things that are being uncovered, right? I think I had it here. I think this is time to bring it. So Luke chapter 12, verses 1 and 3, just talks about what is hidden in darkness, right? It will be revealed. And not only that, the scripture even says that it's going to be proclaimed. That's what the scripture actually says. So it's not only is it going to be revealed, but it's going to, like, that spotlights are going to be put on it.
Right.
It's like, which house was it? Let's go to Mahalo Street house. Sometimes okay. You don't know where I'm going, yeah? You have no idea. So Mahalo Street.
No, I had to think about wait.
No. Well, my point is, okay. So let's compare Mahalo Street and then the 361 house. Okay.
Okay.
Let's compare and contrast the roach activity. What was the difference in the two roaches?
One was demonic.
And
Like,
fearless.
literally.
And fearless.
Yeah. I mean, because they'd come out in like droves just to
But they were fearless.
attack you.
Yeah, they would come after you, right? But then the roaches in Kailua was not too smart. They would just sit there and let you just, for the most part, not all of them, but most of them was like my point is big difference.
Yeah.
Well, one common thing is when you turn the lights on, they don't like it, right?
They scatter.
Yeah, they don't like it. And that's what's happening, right? The lights are being turned on.
Yeah.
And they don't like it. And I'm not calling those guys roaches, but they don't like it. So here's a question. Why is that? Why don't they like the light to be shined on them?
Because it exposes, right? It exposes
What though?
the darkness, exposes the evil, it exposes their heart, it exposes what they've been doing. And then not only will it expose, but, people either be put in jail or they lose money. And that's where the greediness comes in. Like, you have enough money. Why do you need more than, what you can do with all of that? Right? There's only so much things that you can purchase and that you can buy, right? When you love treasure, those are the things that's in your heart at the end of the day. Sometimes when you love those things so much, you end up being alone.
Why do you think people are so... I guess I don't want to say just addicted. Yeah, you can say, why are they so addicted to that?
The love of money.
I just saw a hummingbird. The hummingbirds are here. Nice. Okay, so... Because, the question always comes up is, I don't know why they're doing this, right? Like we know why they're doing these things. Mm-hmm. But the question is, I'm not saying that the United States is a Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, but we could be if we're not careful.
Yeah.
The lights being turned on and the roaches running away, they're not Democrat roaches. Right. Let me rephrase, because I don't want people to take that out of context. I'm not calling people roaches, but we were talking about roaches. We turn the lights on, they scatter. They're not just Democrats.
Right.
There's some conservatives, even though the wackiness of it all, it just tends to lean towards the far left. Here's what
people on the right that are wacky too, right?
I think this is what I believe. We're in a crucial moment right now where we're so, whatever word people want to use, you can say disgusted, or they're so tired of the deception and the lies and the things that are just way out there, policies and things. That now they got the wheel and they just literally are just, everybody's muscling this wheel, trying to turn it the other way. And then the other guys are like trying to hang on to the wrist. No. But it's so strong right now. But the problem with that is, I wrote it down. I don't know where I wrote it down, but it's like driving a car. Let me see if I wrote it down. It was a pretty good. Oh yeah. Here we go. So it's like. It's like, you know how you always get at me for my driving? Yeah. Honey, you gotta pay attention, whatever. You can't do this while you can't be on your phone while you're driving. And I'm like, I don't know, honey, I get them. I got it. The truth is, I'm waiting to hear that bloop, 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 bloop. Right? Let me try to do the sound effects. When you hear that sound, oh, okay, got it. Heads up. I feel that sometimes that's how our country is being run. When they hear those when you hear the monopoles on the road,
Mhm.
so okay, we gotta turn back. But I think we're in danger of passing the monopoles. That's what I feel like.
I feel like our government is like this. So we started with a car, right? Then we went to a truck. Now we're on a bus, and everybody's trying to drive, right? So we had a small government, and now we're big government, and now everybody wants something. Everybody wants their fair share. You look at Hawaii.
That's a good analogy.
And
everybody's on the bus.
You look at Mazie Hirono, who represents Hawaii. I see all these not tweets, but all these messages like, she shouldn't be there, da da da. They need to look into the corruption of Hawaii. These people have been sitting in these seats forever. You look at Dana Kaka, you look at Daniel Inouye, these congressmen have been sitting in these seats forever. And here you got people, people like Joe Biden, who's been in this for 50 something years, right? And they make promises and they say all these different things, but where's the change, right? Where's the true change? There's no, you got a little bit of fresh new people in there. And then you got, a lot of people who've been sitting in there. Even Ted Cruz, he's a guy who's been sitting there forever as well. I'm not just on the Democrats, but I'm saying there are people on both sides that have been sitting in these seats forever, and then you wonder why some of these things don't change. But like I said, we've become such a big government, right? That everybody's on the bus trying to drive.
There are people coming forward talking about some of the things that Biden supposedly did in office. He was not aware.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
signing his name,
and whether that's true or not, it's not just one person saying these things. There's multiple people saying some of the things that were done while he was in office, he wasn't even aware of those things. And so, I'm not stirring up conspiracy theories, but you talk about the bus. I believe that Trump is still, I think he's at the head of the bus, like he's in the driver's seat, but I definitely believe there's other people with their hands on the steering wheel. And there's a lot of people in the back. So I kept thinking about in 1984, 1983, I used to ride a bus. And there's always this one guy behind me, always hitting the seat, just punching the back of the seat. He'd grab my hair and he'd shake my head. And just a bully, right? Just making all kind of trouble. And I remember turning around, looking at him. And I remember after a while, he stopped. Because I turned around and looked at him like I'm going to do something to him, which I don't think I was. But after a while, he left me alone. There's a lot of people on this bus that are doing that, what that guy is doing. And some of them are legit, some of them are not. Some of them actually have some authority. The problem with that is finding who are they? Because we said it earlier. Like, first of all, God's not Democrat, right? God's not a Republican. And everybody that's building this kingdom, that they're trying to build this.
They're trying to build a foundation, rebuild a foundation, right? Or redo a foundation.
So here, let me go over my notes on that because, so in order to build, this is a very crude, not, I don't want to say crude, but this is a very general description of how to build a house. So basically, you want to have, obviously, you got to have good soil, you got to have a good foundation, the framing, which is all the wood, basically the skeletal system of the home. You got to have the electrical and plumbing laid in throughout the framing. After all that's done, obviously your roofing is done, your trusses, you got shingles, all that. Now the house is ready to put the interior, right, which is your finished work, cabinets, drywall, all that stuff, all the finished stuff. Then when all of that is done, obviously, your furnishings and all that, but then you do the painting, right? The painting covers everybody else's work, right? Whatever they did or didn't do right, it hides their blemishes. And one thing we're going to talk about in building a house is you got to have the right stewardship or ownership of the home. Because it'd be crazy to build all that, and you bring in some,
But you want experienced people. You want those who have expertise in not just framing your house, but also putting in electrical and all those things. Because so you remember the 361 house, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's connections. If something went out, it's like, what? The living room is connected to the bathroom, right?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
talking about connections now, the lights and all those things, right? If you don't have the right people in the proper place, then the things won't function properly,
Yeah.
right? In the same way, if we're looking at the government is what is happening, right? And I talked about this before. So when you're in business and when businesses are being acquired, right? Say Coca-Cola acquired Pepsi. Let's use Pepsi for the sake of conversation, right? If Pepsi is not making enough money and say they are in a bind, right? So because now they got to sell, right? So what does Coca-Cola do? They come in, they acquire Pepsi, and what is the first thing that they do? They fire everybody at the top. Why? Because if they keep those people at the top and they haven't been making money, why would you keep the people at the top?
Right.
Right? In the same way, because Trump is a businessman, I can see that he's firing people that hasn't made the adjustments or made things the way that it should be. If you're losing money in a company, why would you keep the head in that company, right? If the head is responsible for all these things that should be going right. In the same way, I see him, in the firing of different departments and firing, the heads of different things is because you're not meeting the budget. Things are not going the way that it should be going. And we're going further in debt versus coming out of debt, right? And when you're acquiring a business and, when you're changing over, you're shifting over some things, those are the things that they do. And I can see that with these different departments in the government, whether it's non-compliance or, the hidden in darkness things, that they're starting to see, right? And as we was talking about stewardship, is the same thing, right? You have to filter through things. You have to look through things as well to, you're trying to cut costs too. So even in acquiring a business, you're trying to cut costs. You're going to cut from the head. You're also going to cut from the body as well, right? In the same way, when you're trying to lose weight, what are you doing? You got to cut out some of the eating, right? You got to cut out some of the food so that you can lose the weight, right? In the same way that in business or even in the government, you got to cut out some of those things because you got to cut out the waste. You got to bring the budget back into perspective, and then you got to make the budget to where you're coming out of things.
Well, one of my concerns when you're talking about all the good stuff, like foundation. I think we talk about the foundation. We talk about the house on North Shore. Beautiful homes. They're beautiful houses, right? $5 million houses. They got the right framing, electrical, beautiful. They probably even have the right foundation, right? They probably have a very solid, thick foundation. And I wrote this today, and I'm glad I wrote it, but they're not built on the right soil, right? And so our government's the same thing. They're working on all this framing, electrical, finish work, all the right components, bringing in the right people, firing the wrong people. My concern is, what are they building it on?
Yeah.
Because if Jesus is not the center or the rock that they build it on, it's just another house that's going to fall.
Yeah.
And in our efforts to redirect the course of our nation, they're turning it in such a direction that looks good. I mean, I'm all for like, getting rid of, PMS classes for men that want to be women. Obviously, you don't want to spend money on that. All those things look good, but if Christ is not the center of it all, this there's just another house that's going to crumble. It really is,
Hmm.
right?
I like what Sam said, that God is the one who put all these people in position because, the same thing with Joe Biden. God put him in position for a reason. Maybe it's the reason is to shake up the body.
Right. Well, let's talk about the schools because I don't have the luxury of pulling up the video today, but I talked about it earlier. Is that let me read this real quick before I go into it. One thing he thinks it's the end time now. The lawlessness is increasing. Scammers. I will agree to that. I think part of it too is, I think people's perspective on the end times. A lot of it has to do of, I believe, the chapter of life that they're in, and also the calling of life that they're in. Like for example, when I was doing like drug rehab counseling, that was a very victorious profession.
Yeah.
Even though people didn't graduate. So by default, my perspective of how the world is like, wow, we're winning souls. Every single week, every single month, there's a victorious advancement of God's kingdom. So for my outlook is that, wow, okay, God is moving. Like there is victory. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. That is progressive.
Right.
That's not every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, and everything's just going to blow straight to hell in the meantime. Well, no. So I do agree there are some things that, but going back to, I went to go to the school where the lady said that I don't want to put my child in, I don't think I'm going to put my child in this school. And she said this is what she said, I wrote this down. She said that they're putting in gender reaffirming educational programs in our kids' elementary schools. And she says, I don't feel confident in putting my kid in school. And then she says, even though the parents voted against it, she said, I think it was 25. She's 25 voted to do this education program, gender reaffirming studies for kids. 25 voted yes, 0 voted no. So she said, in this vote, they basically went against the parents' wishes. And she says, I don't feel like our educational system that they're partners with the parents. And when she said that, that bothered me.
Well, the educational system was never meant to partner with parents, right? It's a governmental system. It's free.
Well, let's talk about the Western United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's free
in
education.
Canada too. Remember I did the podcast with Irina? She talked about how their educational system was, and it's documented. She did a documentary on it. Their educational programs were designed to break up the indigenous people's families.
Well, you look at the history of where public school came from. Look it up. You look at videos. You can watch it online. It was designed to build factory workers, right? It was designed to train kids, people up to work in factories. That was the system, right? What do factories workers do, right? Let's go back and look at what factory workers did. They either create pieces of something, whether it's a screw, whether it's a part for something, right? That's what they did. That was their job, right? Factory workers, they, create cheese, or they, one of my friends, she was one of those, She was a factory worker where you stand on the line and you got to check the food and you got to check whether or not it was in perfect condition or not. Then
Quality control.
right. And so you move it back and forth and you take them off and then you leave the other ones. You take whatever, if the package is not sealed, you got to take that off. Right. So this is the way that it was designed for you. It's not, it wasn't a place for you to think, if I could say it that way. It wasn't created, this place wasn't created for you to think differently. It was created for you to think the way that they do. And I say this, and you can watch videos, and I always go back to my grandma because, the things that they were talking about us as a people, as far as Hawaiian history goes, they said things that, really made me think about some of the ways they did things in Hawaii. And so when I would go back and ask my grandma, she would say, "What? That's not true." Now, I grew up on Oahu, right? But my grandma is from Molokai. Every island is different. If you don't know, every island is different, right? Every island has its own history of how they were participants in Hawaii, right? Every island has its own dialect of speaking the language. They have their own historical things. And there is a difference. Oahu, it was the most, what do you call it? Gentrified island, if I could say it that way, because that it was because it was the first island that was really colonized, really. and I don't know if it had to do with the structure of how things were, as far as boats being able to come over and all this different stuff, right? But the system wasn't really built for you to partner with them, right? And I also understood this too when it came to Pono Choices. It was a program in Hawaii. And those Pono Choices, I really had to go call the principal, call the vice principal, really sit down with them. And I guess because I put up a fight, they opt my daughter out of all these things, because my thing is, you're not going to teach my child about sex education. That's my job. Who are you to teach my child about educational?
Let's just clarify that. So people that don't know, Pono Choices was a educational pamphlet that the Board of Education in Hawaii produced for elementary children.
It was a pilot program.
And it was, I think it was a 3-page pamphlet. It was kind of like a photo aid. And I have a copy of it somewhere. I saved it. It's in PDF format. And it basically covers how to become diverse sexually. And it would kind of give them, and the underlying language was, it's okay if this is what you do or who you are. But it took the parents out of the picture.
Right.
It took the parents. If the parent doesn't want their child to be exposed to that type of imagery, first of all, but it all goes back to what we were saying, who decided, not who's, because we all know who sold the package, but who decided, as a family unit to say, you know what, let's put our kids in school 6-7 hours a day so I can go work. That to me is heartbreaking, and that's a tragedy.
Well, and then, who's teaching your kids, right? So my thing, I never allowed somebody to babysit my kids, right? If there was anybody who babysat our kids, it was always my mother-in-law or my mom, right? It was always personal. People that we knew, if my sister came to watch or my other sister came to watch or pick them up, take them out, whatever. That's a different story. But my thing was always, and growing up, I saw a lot of these things happening. And it was where babysitters abused the kids. My issue was I can't spank my child for a behavior that they learn from somebody else. That's not us. That's not from our family, right? We have a family dynamic. We live a certain way because of culture. If there's somebody else raising my kid the way that they've been cultured, and I don't agree with that, how can I discipline my child in that? And then there's this fight as well, right? Because we're believers, right? And so our oldest daughter went to school, and there was different things that they would have kids participate in. Well, that's not what we believe. And no, you're not participating in that. Well, how come? How come these people can and I can? Which would make her feel like she's the oddball out, because there's maybe like 5 kids that don't participate, but there's like 100 kids that do, right? Now you got this peer pressure going on where, oh, they have to participate. So say for instance, and this is a hypothetical, okay? It's not real. It's a hypothetical. If the school had done this thing where we'll do, like, not necessarily a blood sacrifice, but let's cut your finger and let's put it here because this is what we do. And this is how we do it because we're going to worship. Well, why are you doing that to my kid? Well, we're just doing this historical thing, and we're showing kids that this is how you worship. And so we'll cut our finger or pick our finger, and it's not that big of a deal. Oh no, but it is to us as believers.
Has that ever happened?
No, It's a hypothetical. I just said.
I know, but like I said, we can say hypothetical for that situation, but has it ever happened before? I wonder.
I don't know. So, I mean, you got strange things out there, right? And then now it goes against what we believe as a family unit. Okay. So now if I go to school and I pick up my kid and, oh, they got one shot for something because all the kids are getting shots for this or that. Why? Because the school said that they can. But why is the school saying this and they're making decisions on behalf of my child versus me as the parent who should have the absolute say in everything?
So I'm going to address what you said and combine the comments. So, and Brother Sam, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being lively. He brought us some really powerful things about indigenous people. I'll flash them up. You talk about how indigenous people don't technically need Western style of school. Since when did the school decide the children how to think? I'm going to pause on this when he said that it should only be there to get children ready to work. So while I think he may be right, I don't think that it's right. Mm-hmm. Right? He may be accurate. I don't think that's right, because as a parent, I don't want my children to be cultivated to be a Silicon Valley employee or a worker. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to give them everything that what I believe God called them to be. Mm-hmm. And to give them that opportunity, not for someone to funnel them into
like a herd mentality.
You know those bank my dad used to have it. You drop all your money. We used to have, you drop your money, mm-hmm. and it separates by quarter, nickel, dime, penny. That's what they're doing to our kids.
Coin sorters.
Coin sorters. That's what they're doing to our children. It's ironic because America touts itself as a republic, a democratic republic, free, but then the school system is very much so socialistic.
Well, and this is why you get all these problems with the kids nowadays, and you have more of these ideologies that are so far-fetched. So yesterday I was watching, actually twice already, I was watching this guy on I think it's on Instagram. I think he was on Instagram. So there's this incident that happened in Hawaii in Ewa. And Ewa is where I grew up. But now Ewa has become so gentrified. Before there was just one small community, but now there's like different communities because they've built apartments, houses, whatever. So now it's a bigger community. So there's about 400 kids on e-bikes, on bikes, and this has been a big thing in Hawaii because kids have been dying because they got hit on a e-bike or they fell off a e-bike. Just recently, a 7-year-old girl got banged, and she just recently passed away. But they're talking about e-bikes and them getting hurt and them doing papa wheelies and wheelies is fine on one regular bike, but now you got e-bikes going 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. That's very different versus your 5 mile an hour speed on one regular bike with your feet paddling, right? So this has been a big issue. They had this parade, supposedly some kind of thing that happened, which an adult coordinated. Now you got 400 kids on this one block of street, like a huge street. And all these parents are coming outside, all these, kids are doing all these things. And the parents are like, what are you guys doing? People in cars are waiting because all these guys are going around in a circle, whatever. So now you got cops there. So the cops been called. There's one guy, they even call out this one man, right? And so all these kids are on these e-bikes now trying to whack this guy, trying to bang him with their bike. And all these other kids, they're swearing at the cops, they're saying all kinds of stuff. And so this man, he was talking about, and he's like, you know what happened to the children? What happened to the kids? It's like, parents, spank your kids. People got upset at him because he said that, but he said, discipline your kids, like talk to your kids, parent your kids,
raise
exactly.
Your kids. Yeah.
And he was saying, but so he made a comment and he said, well, some of you can't even have anything to say because your kids are already teenagers, but you never raised them.
Oh,
so who's raising them?
I don't care if they're teenagers. You can still raise your kids.
His point was he was talking about raise your own kids.
Yeah,
and he said, I cannot fathom in my mind what is going on with all these kids. The only thing I can think of is the parents aren't parenting their kids. Like the school is not meant for you to raise. They're not meant to raise your kids, right? You look at COVID and what happened, and
Well, let me offer encouragement for anybody that, because I don't want to make like, if you don't homeschool your kids, you're a bad parent, because that's not the case. Because there are parents that cannot homeschool their kids, and I understand that because of profession.
But be involved.
But there are people that are, they're doctors, law enforcement, nurses, where their schedule doesn't give them that freedom. But this is what I will say is that I will say seek the Lord, right? Ask God, how can I best raise my kids? And because the truth is, I don't care if it's a good school or a bad school. If my kid is 7 to 8 hours a day outside of our home, who's with them? Right? That's the first question I would ask as a parent. And the people that they are with are those people that I would want to be in my home and to live with us. Right. Would I approve of them living with us in our home? And if you can't answer that question, they probably shouldn't be raising your kids.
But in the same way, right, Jazz was in school, right? But I always had access to every single teacher, right? I always checked her folders. I always checked her work. And every assignment, they have assignments that they got to write down and stuff. And so I always checked with that. And then they had this program where, you can email the teacher or talk to the teacher, whatever. So if she didn't understand something, I would email the teacher or tell them, hey, she doesn't understand this. Can you explain this to me so that I could help her? Right. So it's not, obviously it's not feasible for every single person to homeschool their kids, but it is feasible for every single person to be involved in their child's learning, right? To show some form of interest in what they're doing, because that will give them confidence, as well. Not obviously not you can't. It's not that you're trying to micromanage what's happening, but you're trying to be involved, not trying to, you're being involved in what is happening in their education.
So just to encourage parents that can't homeschool, although I'll make the argument that it is possible, more possible today than ever before, just because of technology, because of the workforce, how the workforce has changed.
Yeah.
In 2025, from COVID to today, the way people show up to work has radically changed. The requirements to make money have changed as well. So, if you read Hummingbird, this is beautiful. I'm sorry, again, distracted. The hummingbirds came back. So, anyways, but the fact that you can work remotely gives you even more so of an opportunity to raise your own kids. And if you can't do that, it's okay. What I will say is be aware of what is being taught to your kids. And if that doesn't line up with what you want for your kids, my biggest let me just acknowledge everybody on Rumble. Thank you to my Rumble viewers. I appreciate you, Rumble viewers. I really appreciate you a lot for being with us today. But my heart goes out just for the kids that don't have a family structure. And we got to self-correct, because you corrected me the other day, like my time on my phone. So these kids that are coming home, if that's what you've got, make sure you invest in them. So when they do get back out into that environment, that they're strong enough to withstand whatever it is that comes at them.
Now, I'm not saying, okay, for the state of Hawaii, it's hard to homeschool just because of the way the structure is. Now that we're in Oregon, there's so many families out here that homeschool. Like, I had to go find some programs, right? Because when my oldest daughter was 10th grade, when she was beginning 10th grade, we began homeschooling. She was having some problems in school, and
social issues.
But I think it's the best thing that we've ever did. But I went on Facebook. I had to go find like homeschool groups that we could co-ops that we could get together and do field trips with, or even PE. So, because I'm not a PE teacher, but we would meet at a park, and kids from different ages, and they would all play PE together, on once a week, but here in Oregon, it's different. There's so many homeschooled kids. There's so many different programs. There's so many more things available. So every state has their own version of what homeschooling is. Hawaii's one is just a lot stricter in their homeschooling programs. I want to say there's not much programs out there in Hawaii, and a lot of the military that I've come into contact with as far as homeschooling groups, they're the ones who are saying like, wow, I find it interesting in Hawaii, there's not that much homeschooling. Like, you got to go and dig and really look for homeschool.
A lot of that is politically connected because of the political climate. And this is where politics really does have a role because here, not in Portland, but here in this part of Oregon, extremely conservative. Mm-hmm. So they want parents to make that decision for their kids, generally speaking. Although a lot of conservatives, they still put their kids in the system, but they're very involved. Right? But in Hawaii, it's radically different. Hawaii is very strange, because Hawaii as a people are very family oriented. Mm-hmm. Where we take care of one another, but at the same time, they're okay putting the kids in the system to let the government take care of the kids at the same time. So it's and part of that is like what you said, it is harder, but then also that too is the what do you call that? What do you call it? The demographic, the economic system in Hawaii is much more difficult. Like, you won't find a lot of stay-at-home moms in Hawaii. Extremely rare, unless they're military wives. Right. So,
unless you're my family, I know a lot of stay-at-home moms.
Yeah.
They sacrifice
Yeah, you sacrifice the income to raise your kids.
Yeah.
So rather than eat out 5 times a week, you eat at home, right? You home cook meals and you plan your meals out. The husband doesn't buy plate lunch every day. He brings home lunch. And by the way, very special shout out to the best man in my wedding. I was just thinking about him, Bryce Penzian. Just reconnected with him. That was such a beautiful conversation. But the reason why I brought him up is because he was always a guy that knew how to save his money. Right? But anyways, I want to put that in a garage as far as the schools, because we are really, we're firing bullets on the power vacuum, and how one thing I will, before we put it in a garage, is this Board of Education discussion.
Well, it's very interesting of what they're going to do. It's interesting to see what they would do with the educational system. It's very interesting to see what they're going to do with the educational system, and see what they're going to do with the Board of Education, and how those things roll out for every state.
Put it back to the schools, to the states, and then allow the states to have the. I think Josh Stipe on X put it best. He says, let me try to frame it correctly, but it's an area of funding, an area of education that the money should follow the child, not the district, or the school. So if the federal government or even the state governments, they have a budget to allocate $1,000 a month to, or whatever. I don't know what the budget is, but let's say they spend $3,000 a month on each child to educate them. They should make that finances available to someone that homeschools as well. Versus, because if we're taxpayers, we're all paying for it. Right. If I pay taxes, my tax dollars are going to an education system which my kids don't even participate in.
Right. You see, one of my frustrations of what I got frustrated about, because our youngest son didn't talk till he was about 4 years old, that he could actually speak, where you could actually understand what he was saying. And that was because they wanted me to put him in a preschool program, which he was in, to help him with speech, because they figured if he's around kids his age, and they could help him with his speaking. But prior to that, he was under Easter Seals, and Easter Seals only goes up, I think, to 3. But trying to get him services for speech was a challenge. And one of the places where they wanted us to put him in speech was in one of those Elks Club or whatever, one of these clubs that they would do speech therapy.
Did you say Elks?
Yeah, they had speech therapy there. My issue with that was,
Freemasonry.
Well, not only is it Freemasonry, they wanted you to leave your kid there. And you can't be there. You have to leave. And I'm thinking,
No.
Yeah, that's what I said. No. I don't think so. I'm not leaving my kid with you. My kid can't even really speak much, and let alone you like me leave him there with you to help him develop. No, I don't think so.
No, thank you.
Any professional would not, do something like that.
Speaking of great parents, it's good to see Brother Waylon in here. He is Waylon, the indoor farmer.
Aloha, Waylon. But it was interesting that, along the lines of that, those services would have been so much better, as far as helping him with speaking.
I think that's a good compromise for anybody that wants to homeschool. If they do give the power 100% back to the states, that obviously helps the budget with the federal. It improves, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. But to give it back to the states, the problem with this, and this is where I see the pushback, is that how do I put this nicely? So if you are a governor of terrible state, right? Let's say your state is terrible. You don't know how to manage money. You are the worst state in America. You can't even buy a can of Spam. That's how bad your budget is. You don't want to have control of your education. You want the money. You want the funding.
Well, and if you're a corrupt state, you want all the funding.
So you can shady your money in somebody's back pocket. You know what I mean? You go get the.
I mean, we already get problems.
Yeah.
In Hawaii.
But
right?
I got sidetracked with that. But if the money follows a child, which is what Josh Stein. So if people that don't know, Josh Stein did a podcast with his wife, Dr. Christina, and they were talking about if the money follows a child, that would actually benefit the people. Now, obviously, you should have some checks and balances. Obviously, I mean that probably should go without saying.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
Well, homeschooling in Hawaii does come with checks and balances, right? You got to have, you have to keep. Well, I always kept record of everything because they could come in and just surprise you,
right?
Like, to make sure that you're actually, homeschooling your kids. My kids have binders of work, and I'll print out their work so that they could write it out. In the same way, I have them send me documents as well, so I can look over their documents and make sure, to ensure that it's being done right and stuff. No matter what program that we use, that I always have documents to prove that yes, we are homeschooling our kids, like they're actually getting an education, right? And in Hawaii, that's a big thing there as well. And then there's years in between where you got to take testing, to make sure that they're at grade level or some kind of level, or, and that's kind of a checks and balance when it comes to homeschooling in Hawaii. Here, I'm not so sure, but here is kind of interesting because our neighbor homeschools, but also,
like hybrid.
Yeah, like a hybrid. So one of her sons actually goes to a public school, and her other son is homeschooled, and he goes to school like twice a week or once a week or something to that effect. So it's kind of interesting.
Here's a good comment. I gotta throw this out there. This is homeschooling is good if the parents are well educated. I will say you're wrong because I am not highly. I'm just kidding. But here's what I'll say to that. To me, that opens the door to a dangerous premise, because if a state says you're not educated, so you can't teach your kids, that's a dangerous premise to operate on.
Then, am I a slave to the state? Like, do I belong to you?
So,
am I a prisoner?
So to offer a positive rebuttal to that is that, I mean, if you have a kid, then obviously you must be good enough to raise them.
Well, when we started homeschooling, the office, because you have to have it in writing to the district that you are living in. You have to have it in writing that you're homeschooling your kids. Now, when I did talk to the lady, it's kind of funny because her name is Mrs. Potts. She was talking about homeschooling, and she said, you don't have to have a degree to teach your kids. Because I had asked about homeschooling. She said, you don't have to have a degree to teach your kids. She said, you just got to know what you're teaching them.
See, I think all that state intervention, what we found out, those are all lies. Mm-hmm. You don't have to follow a program.
Mm-hmm. Well, she said you don't have to follow a program. Yeah.
But remember, this is important. We got to bring this up. Remember when Jazz went to college? They don't care about the diploma. Yeah. You don't have to have a high school diploma to go to college. They don't care about that. If you have it, great. What they care about is, are you actually going to do well on the entrance exam? Did you take the PSAT? Are you going to make the school look good? They don't care about your high school. Unless your high school has, it'll make the college look good.
Right.
But people don't know this. You don't have to have a high school diploma to go to college. So what does that say? That says that the the Board of Education, the educational systems as we know it, are designed to control the parents and to have access to the kids. Because we don't have to submit. We don't have to submit to the education system. We don't have to. Like, there is no law that says your kids have to have a height. There is no law.
No. The submission of the paper was to say that I'm taking my kids out of school and I'm homeschooling them.
Yeah, but even then, legally, we don't have to do that. There is no law that says you have to put your kids in the school system. But
you have to sign them out if you already put them in the school system. And that's what I did. I signed them out.
But my point is, we don't have to conform.
Right.
There is no law that says you have to conform.
Well, and you don't have to follow a program.
I'm getting heated because now I'm thinking about, wow, this is crazy how they make you think that you, like, if you don't put your kids in an educational system, now obviously you want to teach your kids. You want to be sure your kids are smart.
You don't have to follow a program, but you can. So I use many different programs, and I use the programs that I feel like is designed towards my children, right? And so, I'll ask them, okay, what do you want to learn this year, right? What do you want to learn in science? What do you want to learn? Because if you allow your kids to be an active participant in their education, the more they're going to want to do it, right? We do music, we do science, right now we're doing oceanography because that's something that they wanted to do, right? We are people of an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, right? And we're surrounded by water. And so they love everything that has to do with the ocean. Well, okay, let's study the ocean then. And so, you allow your kids to be an active participant in it. Obviously, you don't want your kids to be stupid, right? So, but they got to know the ABCs and know how to read. And
but stupid according to what, right?
Well, my version of stupid is not knowing how to write, not knowing how to read, not knowing just the basics.
But that's why I'm saying, what system are we talking about now? Oh, this is getting good, right?
Well, the basics of what you would need to survive on the outside when you become an adult. That's what I think.
A Western cultivated society.
Depends on what your child is going to do.
It depends where you live and what they're going to do in life. But we have people that we know right now, they're third generational farmers.
Well, I was going to say that because there's this video I've watched on this kid who didn't go to school, and he wasn't educated like how everybody else is educated, but he knows everything about the farm. Why? Because he said, I don't need to go to school. Why am I going to go to school when I'm going to be a farmer? Well, I know that I'm going to be a farmer.
Let's talk about Gideon. So when I look at the camera, for people that don't know, my youngest son, and I'm going to say this out of love, my youngest son is smarter than most kids out there. He knows more about World Wars 1, 2, and 3, more than most parents even know.
We don't have a World War 3.
I mean, yeah. It's coming. It's coming. World War 3 is coming. But he knows about. Did I say World War 3? He knows more about World Wars 1 and 2, right? He knows more about that than most people, like even more than I do, probably.
Bombing of Pearl Harbor.
And it's not because worldwide forced him. He actually genuinely wants to know that stuff. Yeah, we have bots in Twitch. What was I going to say? But and then the access to education is so available now versus when we were kids.
And it's very different, right? When you go to public school, it's just a one way of doing things, a one standard way of doing things. And even growing up, when they find out that you have dyslexia or when you have some sort of reading problem, or it was a challenge for them to figure those things out. Like even now, like my youngest son, he's more of a visual learner. So a lot of the things, or some of the things that he would get frustrated with, I actually tailored it to the way that he learns, because he's very good in learning with videos. So a lot of his things come with videos that we watch videos and we go over these things, and it's easier for him to retain. My other son, it has to appeal to him. right? Because he's more of the analytical one. Like when it comes to science and math, he's more of the analytical. He has a more of that analytical side, so he's drawn to those kinds of things. So, I would buy these kits, and he would put these things together. Uh, and it entertains him. He likes music, so he sticks with the piano. Now he's on the drums. My younger one, right, he has sensory processing um disorder, so some of those things that he doesn't like he doesn't like a room full of people. He doesn't like being in a crowded space. He doesn't like when things get too noisy, because he feels like he can't hear himself think. So music hasn't been his thing. He doesn't really care for music in that sense, but he'll educate himself in different ways. My other one, she's like the jack of all trades of everything. She loves baking. She loves all those things that has to do with cooking and things like that. And so, we kind of tailor their education to their bending, if I could say it that way, to the way that they are designed, the things that interest them, right? If we went to public school, there's just this one way of teaching, one way of learning, one way of doing things, and it has to be done this way, this way, this way. And when she was in elementary, it frustrated her. She would come home crying all the time. All the time, she would cry and cry and cry because she had so much work. And I was thinking, my God, this kid has like 8 sheets of work to do. She's in the first grade. What do you have to do in the first grade that you have 8 pages of work to do? And it would frustrate her to no end. And all she would do is cry. And I said, okay, there's something that we got to do. Because even talking to the teacher about, these situations, realizing later that she has dyslexia. Yeah. And so, sometimes highlighting the words in different things, it takes her a little bit longer to read, but she'll read it through, but not understanding some of those things before. And, actually now, you really got to pay attention to your kids. You got to know what works, what doesn't work. If they start acting out, why are they acting out? And it's harder to do that in that public school setting for us. In a public school setting is harder. It was harder for us to do that, and that's why we homeschool.
Here's a comment for you. Let me look up. So in New Zealand, it's law, which let me just kind of retract out because I was speaking out of emotion. Now, I understand there are laws in making sure your kids are educated. My beef was that they make it so hard for you to teach your own kids. That's really what I'm getting. I'm not saying that. I want to be clear that I don't want people to think, well, this guy, he don't believe in education. No, I do. My point is, it's not the state's job to raise your kids. That's my opinion. It's also not the federal job or the state's job to teach your kids about life. That's our job. Like I'm trying to be very gentle about this, but if you decided to like procreate and have a baby, you are responsible for that baby throughout the entire lifespan. Like that's what you created. You cannot say, if the kid does something terrible, gets arrested, gets put on the news, they don't say, what school did that kid go to? No, they're going to be like,
who are your parents?
Who are the parents? Right? So with that being said, I totally agree. Like you want to obviously educate your kids. And it obviously, but one of the things he said that if you don't put your kids in school, you can go to jail, which I think in most law-abiding...
Depends on what country you're in.
Yeah. Well, he's saying, so in the United States, if you don't prove that your kids are getting educated, you can get into trouble. Like whether it's through fines or they can call CPS. They can say that you're just... Because typically what they equate kids staying at home and not going to school is maybe the parents are on drugs, right? That's kind of what they equate. They put the two and two together. Why the kids not?
Why in Hawaii? That's a big issue.
But see, now it's different because now parents are at home more
yeah,
versus 1997 where people had to go to an actual building to go make money. Now you can make money in your home. Like right now, I got 3 cell phones, have an iPad, have a computer. You have your cell phone, and you have also your computer. Like if we really motivate ourselves, we can become multi-millionaires just sitting in this room. And our kids can be right there next door, and they can be making thousands of dollars a month if they're really motivated by playing video games and charging people $5 a month to watch them play video games.
Right. And it's a different way of education too.
It's a different way of life.
I didn't just homeschool my kids, but I homeschool other kids too. And when I did homeschool other kids as well, I used Google Classroom, and we did it from there.
Which Google Classroom is like?
It's all right. And you can put up, you can put up your worksheets there. You can put up what you're educating on there. And everybody can all answer, they're all in one classroom. You can educate, and everybody can ask questions all in that classroom. Obviously, like science and some of the other subjects is all the same. The only difference is when you're teaching English or different levels of math. That's the only difference. But I taught my kids how to use the computer. Sorry, they knew how to use the computer well. They know how to I bought a typing program, so they know how to type, and they share with me their documents all the time, so I can look at their documents, so I can see where they're at.
And you're very involved in every step of the way. You exactly. Like we already know. If I ask Gideon, so what did you learn today? Or what are you working on? If he can't even tell me, I know that he's probably been playing video games or watching YouTube. He didn't turn in his work, and we can find out within minutes. We can be on a road, or I can be on a road, not even at home. I can check and see what they're actually doing on my phone, and it's much different today. So I want to acknowledge these guys are putting a good commentary, but Waylon said, unfortunately, kids are a resource just as people are. So governments will not only have an incentive, but they also have an obligation to manage that resource.
It's a funny thing because I was just thinking about this when Greg was speaking, and I was thinking that if there was no money for it, okay, let's take away all the money. Government doesn't give any money now to any state for public school or anything like that. You think your kids going to be going to school if you're not able to make money
off your kids?
Would they be able to go to school?
So let's say the budget is I don't even know. I'm not a good budget guy, but let's say the budget per child is $3,000 a month. Okay, the federal sends the money, $3,000. This is the funding you get. You have to follow these guidelines. This is why that tug of war, this is why that power struggle, that power vacuum is happening, because this is what we want. And it all trickles down to, and this is why I think it's important that I don't care about, take Elon out of the picture, but you look at the team that he has. I think he's got like 100 people on the team, all young people, that all they do is sit behind a computer and they look and they find. And then they present it to him, and he puts it on the desk and says, what should we do now? And they post it on social media, they put it on the internet, they put it on the government website. This is what we find. So going back to the money, it all trickles down. If it's $3,000 for a child, how much of that money actually goes to the child?
Right. And if you're homeschooling your kids and they belong to that district, well, are they getting money for your kid as well?
It's crazy. It's like that movie. Remember the movie Independence Day? And the president's son, the president's dad was in the room, and he was saying, how is it you guys kept this Area 51 away from? How did they not know about Area 51? And the dad is like, well, what are you talking about? How did you not know about this? And you actually believe that it costs $35 million for toilet paper? It's like, what do you mean? Like, oh yeah, well, obviously it doesn't cost that much for,
Schools would be sponsored by Pepsi, Johnson & Johnson.
So,
Crazy, yeah?
so to ease up my stance, I totally agree. Like, I agree with Waylon and then, Brother Sam. Like, fundamentally, it should come up to choice. Let the parents decide
what's best for their family.
what's best for their kids.
Right.
Because let them decide. Now, if I want my kid to be a doctor, obviously I'm not going to homeschool my kids.
Well, I'm also going to put pressure on the parents. Like, be involved in your child's education.
Take the bet.
It's part of your responsibility.
Take the bet. If I want our kids to be a doctor, maybe I will homeschool them. Right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
For people that don't know, I'm gonna put it into perspective. My wife. Is it 2019 when he went back?
Yeah.
In 2019, right at the start of the pandemic, my wife decided, hey, I want to finish school. Okay? If you look at us, we're not high school students. You know what I mean? We're a little bit older, right? So my wife decided. So my daughter went to college in 2019. The same year that our oldest daughter went to college, my wife felt led by the Lord to go back to school. My wife almost beat my daughter in getting her degree. Almost, yeah. Pretty close.
I think we got our degree at around the same time. Mine was just a
little bit after. But my point is, you did it as a mom, a mother of four, a wife. When we were pastoring, actively pastoring, we also were going to business school on the side with Battle Business Academy. We also were, there's so many things that we're doing, and you did it all. So my argument is, if you want to homeschool, if my wife can go back to school, homeschool herself, and homeschool our kids, it's possible. My wife will tell you, she's not we're both not the valedictorians of our school.
How rude.
As a matter of fact, I think we had the crown. We had the crown, but it wasn't the right crown in high school. You know what I mean? But
I got the one now.
Yeah. Okay, can we garage that now? Can we put that in the garage? Because I want to go to the farm, big pharma. You want to take a break? We'll take a shishi break.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to come back. I want to talk about the pharma industry because this is something that I'm really passionate about with Bobby Kennedy Jr. And it's not just big pharma. It's about, I'll take you off camera. You can do your thing. But I want to talk about big pharma. Obviously, talk about the health, the food industry, because my wife and I'm a huge carnivore like evangelist, but I'm also there's some vegetables I love to eat. Like I personally think it's wacky. I just read a comment. Hold on, this comment. I'm trying to get serious over here. You gotta have a sugar dad like brother. No. Ooh. That's so funny. What the heck, Wade? I'm trying to get serious. I'm doing this for Spotify, man. What the heck? What was I talking about? Shoot. Dang it. The food industry, right? So, like, I get it with the carnivore movement because I've done it twice, like full on serious, got some amazing results. But like culturally, I'm Hawaiian, Chinese, and Filipino. A lot of my culture inside of me, generationally, they have amazing health and great food practices, right? So there's a lot of benefit to some of the things that we love. And Waylon is for anybody that's not following Waylon, the indoor farmer, he's a good guy to follow because one of the things that he talks about and I appreciate is just like, you don't have to have a 500-acre property to live well. You can actually build a zombie-proof facility in your home and actually live sustainably for a certain period of time. And I think one of his saying is like, everybody's got to eat, right? And so whether you have, a micro cattle, which is one of my dreams, is to have little mini cattle, right? Yeah. Anyways, so we're gonna come back and talk about that. We'll talk about the big pharma. We'll talk about food industry. Are they actually gonna remove high fructose corn syrup, all that stuff? I do want to talk about Tesla. We have time to do that. And so, yeah, mini cattle, bro. Look it up. New Zealand, you should know that, bro. New Zealand's got some good beef, but mini cattle, yeah. What's his name? Cat Williams. So Cat Williams has a farm, right? And he's got this mini cattle, like they're like micro beef. It's so funny. I'm curious to see if there's anybody that actually uses it to eat or just to have it as animals. Yeah, it's funny. So I'm gonna take a quick. It'll be like a minute. We're gonna have a little commercial from one of our brand partners, our sponsors, and I will say this: if anybody wants to buy equipment, do me a favor, use our promo code, and I'll just be very transparent. Any promo codes that I generate, that I have that through my partners or my sponsors, we get paid. Like, we get a commission off of that. So, and it's all companies that we agree with anyway. So it's not like, I'm just doing it for the money, because I don't get a lot of money, but it helps. So, but we're going to take a short break. I'll be back in about, we'll just say 2 minutes. And then we're going to talk about big pharma, food industry. We're going to talk about Tesla. I want to land the plane on this foundational element of what we talked about. If there's a power struggle, power vacuum in our government, in our country, what is the foundational element and how we can stand on solid ground as a family? If you're single, how can we stand firm on that foundation? So we'll be back in about 2 minutes, and we'll take a quick break. Let me pull it up. And where are we? Where are you? There we are. Wait, is it here? Sorry, guys. I brain fart. All right, we'll be back in 2 minutes. Today's episode is brought to you by Arkon Mounts. For those of you that are content creators and you want the best mounting solutions for your cell phones, your DSLR cameras, well, go to Arkon.com. Be sure to use my promo code Hawaii, and you'll get 20% off your entire order. Also, all of their products come with a lifetime guarantee. So head on over to Arkon.com, keeping your devices within reach. Today's episode is brought to you by One Shot Energy Voice Drops. They are a low-sugar yuzu honey lozenge that soothes and protects your throat and voice with an infusion of slippery elm, marshmallow, and licorice root. Whether you are a full-time gamer, public speaker, pastor, preacher, teacher, maybe you like doing podcasting, you got to get your hands on these voice drops by OneShotEnergy.com. Be sure to use my promo code AMBGLO for 10% off your entire order. OneShotEnergy.com. Aloha, family. We're excited to announce in 2025, we're keeping it alive, we're keeping it fresh. If you go to TheRealGilo.com and click on merchandise, you'll see our Cast Vision apparel. We're excited. If you look at the picture, it's actually pretty funny. Those are the binoculars games that me and my wife used to play. I guess it was our way of flirting. Who would have thought that would be the image for our Cast Vision t-shirts and merchandise for 2025. We're excited to launch it. We're so glad that you are a part of our Ohana. Also, Yesu t-shirts are still there, and also our Blessed Beyond Measure, which is one of our best sellers. So we're just grateful that you can support us along our journey in providing you not just content, but some pretty cool threads as well. So be blessed, family. Thank you for your support. Once again, it's TheRealGilo.com. Click on merchandise. It'll take you to our store. As always, mahalo nui loa. Thank you for everybody that buys stuff. We appreciate you. And there's more coming, by the way. Big Pharma, Bobby Kennedy Jr. And I just found out, I watched a video yesterday with Nicole Shanahan. I'll give you time to, finish your Oreo cookies.
Okay.
But, so I watched a video with Nicole Shanahan. You know who she is, right? Mm-hmm. Did you know that she miscarried? She had a miscarriage last in September. I didn't know that. And she almost died. For people that don't know who Nicole Shanahan is, she was the vice presidential pick for Bobby Kennedy Jr. And it kind of makes sense now, because I've been following her, and one of the things I appreciated about her, and I talked about this before, was her transparency as a leader, for her to apologize to the American people. And what she said was, I want to apologize on behalf of myself and all of us that are in government for us allowing the country to arrive at this point. And it really struck me that someone like her was taking responsibility. Before her, I don't think I've ever, and I might be wrong, but I've never heard a politician apologize to the American people for the way that they were behaving. I've never heard that before. I never have. And so anyways, she was Bobby Kennedy's pick, and we all know that Robert Kennedy Jr. or Bobby Kennedy Jr., he is the head of, I don't know, what is he the head of? I don't even know. Whatever it is, it's health or something. Let me look it up.
The health department.
What is Robert Kennedy Jr.'s job title? So he is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. So I think that's an exciting step. And it's funny, and I'm waiting for my wife to finish. I want her to come on camera, but we watch. What did we watch? What is it we watch? This TV show called Psych. And I don't know, how many commercials would you say? Just flash me. I gotta have your mic muted, but just tell me with a finger, how many different commercials have you seen already? So my kids have this sheet of paper, and it's a running total of all of these pharmaceutical ads. Everything from I can't even say them because it was so funny. One of them we did a like a 3-minute check your we did not a commercial, we did a video, and it's talking about this side effects, right? So anyways, I'm trying to get this going, but my kids have counted 15 different commercials for pharmaceuticals. 15, 1-5. Okay. And it's like every time there's a break in the TV show, they're hitting us with commercials to buy drugs. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, I feel like they know it's coming, so they just want to bombard everybody. You ready? Right? And so, and it's funny because the side effects, we all know the side effects are always
death.
Death. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The side effects are death.
It's always extreme side effects like allergies, allergic reactions that may cause anaphylactic shock, which is death, right? Which leads to death. I didn't say it is death, but it leads to death.
And you can't sue them if you die.
Liver, I don't know, liver problems, kidney problems.
Liver cirrhosis, is that a word? Liver cirrhosis.
Cirrhosis of the liver.
Yeah. But we laughed about that because you can't sue them if you die. And we're thinking, why would they say that in an ad? And we figured it out, right? Remember we figured it out? If they kill me with their drugs, I can come back and sue them. Mm-hmm. And it sounds funny. I can come back and sue them because if I legally die, come back to life, and I can sue them for killing me, that's how smart these drug companies are. They know that they can be sued even after they kill you. So they're going to put it in writing. You can't come back and sue us after you've been killed. Because
they tell you all the side effects, they can't tell you that you can't sue them.
And one of the crazies, I won't, for the sake of trying to be wholesome and be, be righteous, but it was still funny, that side effect where it picked one certain part of the body, right? In between, right?
Oh, yeah.
We won't go there again.
No, we're not. But they've lost count of different names. Like, what is Resulti?
And it's not even RESULTI. It's REX. It's like Rexulti. And of course, our son, who is sensory, hypersensitive in the sensory, he loves it because it's all words that don't make sense. And he looks at it like,
Like it's a game for
It's
him.
a game for him, right? Because they're already, yeah. But so my point being is, I feel like these drug companies, they know that the day is coming. Their days are numbered.
So they're pushing out, because I said this. That's why we started recording. I said because we just, it's like, it's funny. So we just started watching it. But the first episode that we watched, there was about maybe 10 commercials. Out of the 10 commercials, 5 of them were about medication and getting an injection. It's like, what? And so I was like, wait, what? And it's like per episode.
What's the weight loss one?
Ozempic.
Ozempic. Yeah, I've seen that.
Tremfya, that's the one that your brother uses.
Tremfya.
But they have all these different ones. It's like, and I'm telling you, I mean, 15 different ones. When we were kids, we were lucky if we saw one. But I remember, so drugs was a big thing back then, right? So they had the scrambled egg things, and this is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
The most famous commercials for me was 7-Up. The black guy, he's a ha 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 ha.
7-Up. I liked the Coke commercials. They were my favorite because they came out with some cool commercials.
And those are good. Those were the good days wherein you watch the commercial and you would be like, you feel good about life.
I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, like, right? And you see the Kool-Aid man. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I think I'm gonna die, and I can't sue them if I die.
It's like you got everything under the sun, and now it's all categorized, right?
Well, and
because it's like they have this drug for bipolar, which was known as manic depression.
And what's the side effect of the drug? Depression. What's the side effect?
But now they have like 5 different forms of bipolar. Like bipolar is bipolar.
I'm not laughing at anybody that has to take. Okay, I'm not making fun of. It's just, I find it funny that you're taking the drug for depression and shows us what the side effects are. Extreme depression. wait, I already have depression. I don't need extreme depression.
Like some of the things is just like retarded, if I can say it that way. Like it doesn't even make sense. Like make it make sense. It's not making sense over here.
That's funny.
So they classify things. So I can get back on this. We classify things. So if it was used, the drug is used for a certain type of bipolar. So now you got different versions of bipolar, or different classifications of different things, and now you got more drugs to push because you need this. You don't use this for bipolar, but you need this for bipolar 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So bipolar 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 get 5 different drugs that you can use for each one. So that's what, 25 drugs that you can create. So if you're creating more of a need, you can supply that need, right? And then you wonder why that pharmaceutical companies, they make more money. But at the heart of it, if you look at the way that they make drugs, they have to get it from natural stuff. You got to get it from herbs, right? So if you look at different drugs, there is some form of herbs that is connected.
I got to read some of these.
To that, okay.
So here's some side effects in some of the drugs we mentioned. Toxic epidermal necrosis, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, hand-foot syndrome, nerve damage, loss of smell, priapism, unusual impulsive behavior, abnormal dreams, I can't even say it. I can't even say it. You can't even pronounce it. And then onchlosis. And I'm not sure that's even this is not for fact checking, because this is just probably for entertainment, but some of them look real. The other ones obviously are irritable bowel syndrome, extreme diarrhea in rare cases, losses, feelings of suicidal tendencies. I think some of these drugs are like, can I just have my health condition, please? I don't want to have diarrhea and want to commit suicide at the same time. It's like I don't want to have that.
Can I have my issues and some cigarettes?
Yeah. I don't want to commit suicide while having a rare blue skin condition. This is actual condition, a rare blue skin condition.
Give me a beer and some cigarettes at my condition.
Here's another side effect: vanishing fingerprints.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I guess the skin, because your skin. Oh, you can't make this stuff up. So yeah. I feel
don't have fingerprints anymore. Makes me look at my fingers.
You have fingerprints. You can't get rid of them.
So I didn't think about that. I thought what I thought was if I take my fingerprint and I'll put it on the thing and vanish.
No. It's like
it'll disappear because my body is creating some sort of secretion that it looks like it's there for the moment and then it disappears.
I think that side effect of vanishing fingerprints refers to the skin condition that's so bad that it. Because I don't know. I'm not a. What do they call us? What do they call those people?
Unless that means that this part goes away and then there's no fingerprint.
Because there are skin conditions where it's your skin just keeps peeling and but I don't know. The whole point being, trying to land the plane on this one, is that they're so quick to medicate versus preventative.
Like I said, if you create a need, right, you got to fill that need. So if you got 5 versions of bipolarism, you got 5 versions of joint pains. You got 5 versions of eye conditions. Right?
I have like 5 eye conditions, Greg.
I got 5 eyes over here. You got to treat.
Listen,
this one only for the left. This
just
one
for
only
fun,
for the right.
just for the people that are in the live. I don't know if it'll even work, but watch how fuzzy my glasses are. You can't see it, but anyways, yeah. So, but it all ties into. I hope that they address this, but it all ties to obviously the governmental agency that controls 2 departments, which is food and drugs. I think that needs to be abolished, in my opinion. Not destroyed, but like
they need to be separated because it shouldn't be. Like I said, I mean, I was joking about, but I'm not joking. There are different conditions. There's one overhead condition, right? So it went from manic depression to now bipolar, right? So now there's different versions of that. So if you create different versions, then you can create different medications for it, and let's medicate you for this, let's medicate you for that, but the medication is not it takes away a temporary problem that you need to get to the root issue.
Maybe not separated, but at least cleaned up. Because I now I'm thinking, like, there are some drugs that are directly affected by certain type of food products.
Right, but I think they do need to be a separation because there has to be a separate issue for it. So food can be here, drug can be here, but
my thing is a morality issue. That's what my beef.
Yeah.
So maybe they should be separated.
They can have a coordinated thing on things that they would need to collaborate on as far as food and drugs together, but drugs doesn't necessarily need to be with food.
They shouldn't be governing the food and the drug in the same building. Like they should, because
it's easy to
like if they will give a EULA, right, the emergency use authorization,
EUA, emergency use
Did I say
authorization.
I wanted to say EULA just because so the EUA, right? If they give it an emergency use authorization, just like that, for a drug that hasn't been properly tested chronologically, but they won't even give an approval for a health supplement product that's been in our stores for 20, 30 years. They will never approve a supplemental product which has proven clinical trial studies done on it. They won't even approve that.
Well, they will also hide the clinical trials, and then they will actually take things off the shelves if they know that it actually creates complete health. They will take down people for it.
Well, if you remember, I published a link. It was to it's the government. It's a government health website. It's the not IHS. It's the Government Institute of Health. Whatever it is, a .gov website. I did that. I did it in 2020, I think, or 21, where I showed that NIH. Yeah. So one of the things I published, the link was when they did the clinical trials. If you don't read it, you won't know. And I actually read it. There's 3 that I put up. One of them was it showed that I won't throw the company's name out there, but one of the companies that provided the vaccines, they did their clinical trials. Right. They were only required by law to produce, I think it was like 20,000 entrants or whatever you call it, test subjects. The other 20,000, they were not required to furnish the results.
Right.
They weren't required, but it showed it in that report.
So,
which is very interesting, right?
When they use the emergency use authorization, so this was my big beef with the other stuff that happened, right? And in using the emergency use authorization, right? Drugs before were vetted for a longer period of time than they are now, and therefore we have more drugs available, more shots available for different things. Now, with the emergency use authorization, you do not have to prove. You don't have to prove the length of time. So, with that one virus that was going around, this one drug was only done test trials for 2 years. That's not a long of enough time to know the effects of it, right? Because when you're vetting a drug, it's a period of time. It used to be 15 years because in 15 years you can see the effects of what has happened from the day one all the way up to the last day on year 15, right? With the emergency use authorization, what it did, even as it fights the virus, was that you cannot sue for this now, right? It was so they authorized this thing and not knowing the effects. But if you're looking now and you see more people that are passing away in their sleep, in their dream, different types of cancers, like having 3 different types of cancers, all of a sudden having a heart attack, all these different things that are coming down, and you see people passing away more and more now. Now you're seeing the effects of an emergency use authorization for a drug that hasn't been properly vetted. And this was my issue from the beginning with that virus that was going around.
So here's one of the reasons why I think Bobby Kennedy and they're facing so much adversity, and it all connects the dots to Doge, Elon Musk. I don't know if we have time to talk about Tesla, but man, this machine is huge. So I looked up. So Bayer, remember Bayer aspirin? Mm-hmm. They own Monsanto. They also own, check this out.
Hawaii has a big beef with Monsanto.
They also own tons of, it's a conglomerate of basically 1 or 2 major companies. But they own Alka-Seltzer, Aleve, and other pharmaceuticals, which I don't have the listing here, but there's a whole bunch of them.
But you look at these bigger companies who are like, say, Coca-Cola, right? They acquire different companies. So you see a lot of these companies with names on them, like Monster and all this stuff. Okay. Like Monster doesn't own Monster. Monster is owned by so-and-so, right?
So who owns Bayer? It's a German company. And earlier, I don't know if Brother Sam's in here, but we talked about multicultural, and this is where, to me, this is important, that it's hard to go to a certain country today versus like 40 years ago. If I go to this country, you're going to find people that represent that. They look like those people. Now it's different. There's cross, I don't know the right word, but there's different ethnicities all mixed up together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that from a racial perspective. But if Bayer, which is the owner of Monsanto, they also have all these medical pharmaceuticals, and they're owned by a company in Germany. I just looked it up yesterday, and I meant to type it out today, but over 50% of the apps that are in your cell phone, your mobile devices, over 50% of the apps created are based in China. What if, just for a second, we can pretend that maybe Germany, maybe China don't really like us? At the negotiation table in the political realm, they're willing to talk. But from a generational perspective, they remember what we did to them in 1914, 1940, 1930. They remember all those things.
Right.
They know they can't come out guns blazing. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're going to take you out. They know they can't do.
Inconspicuously take you out.
The evidence I have of that is that one of the games that when you hear the word idle hand, what do you think? Is that a progressive, or is it something that just kind of hangs out?
Something just hangs out.
This is what I believe. This is more for speculation. But some of the games that you have on right now, anybody can fact check me. You can go look it up. Just watch the ads. The Chinese have gotten, and I'm part Chinese, so I'm not being racist, but the Chinese companies and some of these games have gotten so blatant that they actually name some of these games idle this, idle tycoon, idle businessman, idle idle game, like idea.
You wonder why me and Gideon sometimes is giggling? We're giggling at some of these commercials because it's all the same. So if you like, I'll play some games, but I like mostly the number games because I don't know. I just like more of the number games because I find when I play these other games, once I figure out what the pattern is, I don't want to play it anymore because I already know the pattern is not challenging for me. But they have these commercials that keep coming up. And so the more that we both sit there and we crack up because we're watching these commercials, you notice the commercials are kind of the same.
Yeah.
They just have a different name. So they're pushing the same thing that has a different name, or this person has a different color shirt, or they have different color hair, right? But it's the same. It's all the same.
So it's kind of like the devil, right? The devil doesn't he doesn't need you to be scared of him bleeding and dripping blood and a vicious guy with horns, and he's like, it's going to attack you in the middle. He doesn't need that. All he needs you to do is get distracted from your purpose and your calling in life. Mm-hmm. China doesn't need to come like launching missiles at us. They don't have to like bombard us with unfair trade agreements or embargoes or tariffs. They don't need that. They can just hire a bunch of companies or pay them or fund them and just keep making games. So generationally, the American people, they keep downloading games and they just end up doing nothing all day. They just play video games, collecting unemployment or whatever, that they're just sitting there and just doing nothing but glued to their phones. And better yet, let's make TikTok so good that they sit there and TikTok and have these pipe dreams that they're going to be wealthy one day if they just keep posting social media videos every single day. I can make money.
Right. Well, here's the other thing. Well, let's make phones so popular that that every single kid want to have one. Okay, this is governmental system of the public school. Okay. Now this is a popular thing, so everybody got to have a phone. Everybody got to have a phone. What do? They download games. What do? They watch Flip.
I saw these 7-year-old kids the other day walking on the street, and I'm thinking, This backpack is bigger than this kid. I'm like, oh my God, these kids are walking the street. I'm like, what are they doing? There's two of them. And then here's the crazy thing. These two little kids, I think there were two girls, just running in the middle of the street, going across the street, and these huge backpacks. And I'm thinking, oh my God, these kids are by themselves. You know what I thought? One of them had his huge iPhone, right? And when I saw the iPhone, I'm like, oh, thank God she's got a phone. So the mom knows where she's at. Can you imagine, like, wow, 20 years, you'd be like, why are these kids out there in the middle of the street by themselves? Now it's like, oh, they got a phone. Oh, they'll be fine.
Well, wait, what? And the thing is, kids sometimes take things so literally. Like, I always have to have talk with kids. Like, these are games. They're not real. This is not how it really happens. I literally had a nephew who thought that he could drive a car because he used to play, I think it was Grand Theft Auto. No, he could drive in one of the video games. He could drive. So you figure if he can drive in a video game, he can go take his test for drive one car, thinking that's the same thing. I said, you do know that it's just a video game, right?
That's extremely rare. It only happened for one. And the reason why he had that, because it happened to one person. He became a F1 driver. Well, but that's like 1 in a million.
Well, yeah, and then he said it's a video game. He goes, yeah, I realized that after I failed the test. I was like,
because there is a guy that all he did was play video games, Gran Turismo, and he's actually a professional race car driver, and that's all he did. And he knows, in part of it, because he knows all the tracks up here.
Well, so let's get back to it, because it just reminded me of Bryce. Remember, he used to play that Pokemon game.
No, it wasn't Pokemon. It was Final Fantasy.
No, Pokemon, where you get out of the car, where you can get so many points if you go over here, and like sometimes you could you find people all in this one spot. Well, you got young kids now, and not thinking, maybe they think they can just walk across the street without looking. It's just all those things to, again, waste time. And let's look at the same thing, right? You go to a public school, everybody has this. I gotta have one. Everybody has one. Everybody has a phone. Let's download TikTok, because everybody got TikTok now. Let's download all these games, right? Let's play all these games. And then at the same time, well, let's push all these ideologies in school so that you're so consumed with all these things that have no purpose in your life, that makes you idle, that you're not doing.
That's how bad the Chinese do.
What you're supposed to be doing. And not everybody figures this stuff out.
It's like, Family Guy, Peter Griffin was looking for dry cleaners, right? He's looking for, I forget, he's looking for a good one. And basically, he knows that there's certain people that make good ones. So one of them was super clean, Cowboy USA, yay, okay, or something. He said, oh, that's the one. But the Chinese, and I'm just making light of it, but the Chinese are gotten to a point where they're not even hiding the fact that they're trying to dumb us down in these games, in these apps. And we didn't even talk about the drugs, because what if for a moment that, and Wayne brought up some really good points. He talked about BlackRock. BlackRock. He said 5th generational warfare. I like what he said, 5th generational warfare. And
speaking of BlackRock, let me say this for a minute. Did you know that BlackRock owns half of Hawaiian Electric?
They own everything.
Hawaiian Electric.
But what I will say is this: that man builds his kingdoms.
Yep.
Right? But they're not lasting. And so, and we talked a lot about these kingdoms that we're building, but I am praying, and I believe in that, even with what they're uncovering in the pharmaceutical industries. But what's happening, what I'm seeing, we talked about, is that there's this backlash. There's this, it's almost like, what movie was that? Remember we just watched The Day After Tomorrow.
Where it's repeating. No, that's
or it's Live, Die, Repeat, or The Day After Tomorrow. No, yeah, Live, Die.
Live, Die, Repeat.
With Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. I love that movie. But if you remember at the end where they were trying to kill that thing, every time they kept shooting it, another arm comes out. It just keeps like just lashing out, and just grabbing and grabbing. I feel like that's what's happening right now with this shift in the direction of our nation. And I'm not talking about Republicans, because that's not what it's about. It's not about Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
It's about, there is this light that's been shined upon this machine, and everybody that's connected, they just don't want to give up that lifestyle or whatever it is, that whether it's power, money, fame, there's some evil things that are being exposed. And I think the funny thing, though, is that they will eat their own. They will crucify their own, right? I don't think that's funny. I don't know if I said funny, but the ironic thing is that they will literally crucify their own.
Well, here's Proverbs 21, verse 20. It says, "In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all that he has." Right? Foolish man, he's going to take everybody down with him. Like, if I'm going down, you're going down with me.
That's why they take them out. That's why they commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why they got fired, or that's why you can't find them anymore.
There's one lady who was secretary of something for Joe Biden. They said she committed suicide.
Well, that's what they're finding in
young girl. I think she was like 20, and not 20, like 33 or something like that. Some young age. It's interesting. I saw it the other day. I was like, wow. I can't imagine going to have a bunch of suicides.
I'll say this.
Interesting.
Tamari, I think that was his name. So I met the chef of President Obama. Young guy, they super buff, and he very nice and good chef. But he cooked some good food. He cooked some really good food. Very nice guy. I had a chance to meet him, and it's very sad that I remember reading that he passed away in a drowning incident in a lake.
Yeah. Right off of Martha's Vineyard, where their home is. Yeah. And
to this day, I'm like, that guy was super fit. Former military.
Well, his wife was crying. She actually gave an interview. So if you look on YouTube, his wife actually gave her interview, and she was crying so heavy. She said, "How can my husband pass away like that? He was I don't say he was an Olympic swimmer, but he was a swimmer.
He was good.
A really good swimmer.
He was in good shape.
But they also said that somebody else was out there with him.
Wow.
So all of that is, I want to say all of that is conspiracy, but him being out there with somebody else, that could be conspiracy. I don't know if that's true. I do know what his wife said was that he's an avid swimmer, so she doesn't know how he could have drowned swimming.
So I do believe that there are powers that be that have built up their kingdoms, and their lust for the power and the money, the control, their lust for that is so strong that they can't shake it. And I think they have this false thinking that makes them think that they're actually in control, and they're really not. Because there's a time coming where they're gonna
invincible. Yeah. I'm invincible. That's the belief.
But that's the arrogance of the enemy.
Yeah. But you can touch me. Right over here, I just was looking at this. It says, "The proud and arrogant man, mocker is his name. He behaves with overweening pride." That's that pride, right? The arrogance and pride. Like, I'm untouchable. Nobody can touch me. Yeah. Just a whole lot of that flying around and what's been happening, right? And part of that is a lot of distraction. If you're constantly always just paying attention to that and not filtering through, and you got to get up. And, I know this one person who always says, I get up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I read the newspaper, I watch the news, and then I go and make my husband some food, and I wait for him to get up so that, by the time he's up, I'm so informed about the news that we can have a discussion about it. Now, to me, that's overwhelming. If you just watch the news and what's been coming out and all this stuff, a lot of the news is very negative, right?
Extremely.
And so how can you not feel overwhelmed by all these things? How can not, how can fear not grip your heart when you're so focused on these things? So this is my encouragement for people. Like, take your eyes off of the news, like shut it down, like filter it through. Don't even watch it for like a week, and like just get better at being healthier. Like, I don't want to say who cares, but who cares? Like, a lot of these things are smoke screens, right? Like, you take tidbits of it and then you go, okay, well, is this really happening?
Mm-hmm.
And then you do research on it and see what's happening, right? Let's not get so, because the news and all that's happening is so much chaos that it can make you crazy. You can either go far left or you can go far right? You can be either extreme, right? But we don't want to get extreme. We don't want to be overwhelmed. We don't want to walk in fear. We don't want to be fearful that you don't go out your door, or you don't talk to people, or you don't go to the store, or you don't, if you find yourself in that place, then maybe you need to just shut off the TV. Let's not watch the news and just do something that you enjoy, like relax, have some peace, go fishing, go hunting, do something other than
Speaking of relax, thank you, Waylon. I appreciate you. That's a guy that knows how to relax. Appreciate you. You have a blessed day. And for those that are not following him, make sure you follow him. It is Waylon Indoor Farmer. He is going to be live. What is today? He'll be live tonight. So make sure you connect with him and support him on locals as well. Make sure you click on his profile and follow him on X and all other social media accounts as well. So
have a good day.
What I would add social media to that too, not just the news, right? Like, there are so many things that are vying for our attention that have no kingdom importance. Even what we're doing now, like, I know you're hungry because you're siphoning the cream. Like, what? Yeah,
I love these things because it reminds me of my grandma.
We're gonna land in a few minutes, so you can do it, honey. We're almost there, honey. We're almost there. But everything that's vying for our attention, that takes us out of our calling. Like, my stomach is rumbling too, but I'm going to push through this because this is important. That everything that we're doing has to have lasting kingdom import. Even this podcast, we have to do it in such a way that it honors the Lord, but there's a stewardship of the time. That everything we talk about, it's important to put the phone down.
Yeah.
Like, it's important to say, you know what, I'm going to set this time. I'm going to do this for my kids. If they got to go to school, I'm going to make sure I'm available when they're home. And then we invest that time. Everything else doesn't matter because I need this time with my kids. We talked about the government, like, with what they're doing with the structure, right? We talked about the foundation, the framing, make sure all the inner workings, get rid of what is nonsensical. I think that's the word they used, which is great. All that stuff really doesn't matter if they're not built on the right soil.
Right.
It's possible to have a great foundation. The problem is that house is going to go floating into the ocean. We talked about that. It'll float into the ocean no matter how good your house is. If you're on the wrong soil, you're on the wrong ground, you're just going to be another kingdom that crumbles, and God will raise up another one.
Right.
And if we don't steward that well, if we don't steward it properly, I want to come back to the scripture. I want to do it when we're really ready to land the plane. But I really believe that we have to make sure that we're on the right soil, the right ground, and that our foundation is built upon that. That our foundation should not be separate from the soil itself. Jesus has to be a part of that foundation. He has to be that foundation, right? So where it doesn't move. I think that's the scripture you read, right? Or I think I read it, where the wise man builds his house on the rock. The rock is his foundation, right? So I think we covered everything I think I wanted to cover. We won't cover Tesla. I just know that those are all they're just distractions. They're just part of that Roman circus, right? But I will say, I think Tesla stock took a jump, went up. So, but before I read this, I want to close with the scripture. Anything you want to delivered before we close it out?
Yeah, don't get caught up in the distraction. You know, uh, make your life purposeful. I wrote something that somewhere on one of my note things, and it talked about being intentional with your time and not getting so distracted by the things that are around us. Right? Sometimes the noise is so loud that it's so easy to be distracted, right? But if you're like Gideon, who doesn't like all these loud noises, and you put on some headphones and let it become quiet, then it helps give you clarity. So that's it.
I will say that what's going to be happening, I believe, in the next few months, and this is a prayer point for anybody that believes in the power of prayer, is that to pray that as things are being uncovered, that God's purposes will still, like, because we're the hands and feet of Jesus, right? That's what the Bible says. We are the hands and feet, literally. I mean, not that Jesus, well, anyways, you guys, you know what I'm saying, that we are the ones to actually be the ones to advance His kingdom. So one of my prayers is that through all of the things that we're going to be seeing, that one enemy has been defeated already. We know that.
Right.
So, but that not just the people of God, but the people that God has called are able to do what He designed them to do. So, all right, I'm going to close out with scripture. You good? You want to?
Yeah, I would.
You want to drop it?
I'm gonna come back to this one scripture. 1 Timothy 2, verses 1 and 2. It says, "I urge then, first of all, that requests, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for everyone, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. This is good and pleasing to God our Savior, who wants all men to be saved and to come to a knowledge of the truth."
That's good.
I'm good.
All right, I'm going to take you off cam so you can eat your Oreo. I don't take you out. You stuck in. Anyways, the timing. So here's what I say, family. Luke chapter 12. I read it in the beginning, verses 1 to 3, or 1 to 3. I'm going to read it in full. So, meanwhile, when thousands of the crowd were assembled, so as to trample on one another, he began to say to his disciples first, "Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. For there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. Therefore, what you have said in the darkness will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in the ear in private rooms will be proclaimed on the housetops, on the rooftops." And here's what I'll say for anybody that is, if you need a prayer point, let's believe that as the the direction of our nation and the nations, as there's a revealing, but there's also, here's what I'll say, is that to be in prayer for your leaders. Be very cautious of the things that are before us. We talked about all the smoke screens, the red flags, all the things that the media so what we believe also is that there are different spheres of influence, what we call the seven mountains, right? We have media, church, family, or religion, business, arts and entertainment. There are these different spheres that we have the authority to make changes into. And if we have the ability to do that, you better believe that the enemy does too. So to be very diligent in those areas in your life, in your family, in your job, in your businesses, in your homes, whatever your situation looks like, and just be wise about it. And I believe that we have the resources available to really be who God has called us to be. I'm a firm believer that the end times, as Brother Sam in New Zealand had said, I believe the end times are near, but I also believe that these are very victorious times. To me, it's exciting because I know that God's kingdom is continuously advancing. Scripturally, it's right when Jesus prayed, right, in Matthew 6, it says, let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So there's this progression while we are here that his kingdom is continuously advancing. If that were not true, that prayer would not have been written in Matthew chapter 6. So that's that's it for today. And I want to thank you guys for listening. For those of you on, thank you to my Rumble audience. I appreciate you guys. I really, really thank you for hanging out. YouTube as well, Twitch, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Thank you. X, as always, you are my heavy hitters. And thank you for the comments and engage. I appreciate you guys. Beth, I appreciate you. Waylon, also. Brother Sam, appreciate you guys. Papa Bear in Alaska. I know that we're supposed to connect, but it's all good. We'll connect at another time. On behalf of my wife and myself, our families that have sacrificed their time from us today, we just thank you for being with us. Whether you're in replay or in the live, we appreciate you. And until next time, just be blessed. And if you want to connect on all the other socials in a podcast, just look up Glow Sessions. That's GLOSESSIONS. We're on all platforms, Glow Sessions Podcast. So anyways, that's it. Take a deep breath, get it ready. Thank you for your time, your heart, super heart, your data, all the good stuff. But most importantly, thank you for your time above everything else. And we hope that the exchange of your time for this, that it was worth it. We love you guys. God bless you guys. Ahui hope. Aloha and mahalo. Yes, sir. Chihu.